Hey there, it's man time. What is that? What is a man? What is a real man? Even if we figure out what a man is, how do we know it's a real one? Um, this was supposed to be a Nexus episode with Joe and I, but he can't make it today. So it's going to be me trying to figure out what a man is, a real man. But I could use all the help I can get. So if you have ideas, if you want to come on, share your opinions, your thoughts, your insight, your wisdom. Come on up. Oh, I probably didn't put the link yet. Let me do that. No, Bess, shut up. Shut your mouth. No, it does not. That's stupid. That's a stupid concept. Just like it's a myth. It's a mythic. It exists mythologically. I will grant you a mythological existence to it. It is not a scientific fact. There's nothing empirical that it can refer to. Anyway, here's the link. That's a that's something, that's a concept like white supremacy and all that other stuff that got into people's brain. That's now part of modern culture, and people talk about it like it's a thing. I consider it poor communication, because if you really want to get your point about masculinity across, focus on some specific trait. Like, what about this particular man are they doing that gets on your nerves? That has much more communicative value than something like a term like toxic masculinity, which to me is virtue signaling. The only people use it is to signal the tribe that they're coming from. Okay, and by the way, I didn't even read your comment. I'm about to read it now. Of course, not as the leftists. It's like strength for its own sake. Well, then they just call it strength. Why call it toxic masculinity? Power, like will to power? Right, I remember. Yes, an emotion-based man of myth. Maybe that's what a man is. Anyway, I asked Chat GPT for a little bit of help. So we'll start there. Hey, Bex, what's up? And I, I my opinion is that only men can determine what a man is or what a real man is. So if you're not in the category of men, if you're not in the man group, you can only give an opinion from the outside, but you can't really be part of the self determination of that group category. Type of trait. Well, actually, that's exactly what AI is going to argue, that it's a set of traits. So we'll look at those. Um, but if you're talking about traits, you have to find traits that are specifically masculine or common to all men or common to whatever you're calling masculinity, that excludes non-male or non-masculine people. And that right there is hard to do. But if you even find a few of those, then you have to determine some arbitrary, subjective, probably cultural line where it becomes too much of that trait and therefore destructive or toxic or whatever you want to try to call it. So maybe let's look at some of those traits. ChatGPT gave me two versions of a real man. It started with the modern version of what a real man is. First of all, it says the concept is highly subjective and varies across cultures, which we all probably knew to begin with. Um, but there's a modern understanding of what a man is. And then I asked it to narrow it down to traits that are, because a lot of what it described as the modern real man seemed to apply to all humans or all genders. There was nothing specifically masculine about most of these traits. So I said, do you have traits that are specifically or traditionally identified as masculine? And then it gave me a list of traits that I think are more in line of what we think of when we think of real men. So let's start with those traits. Traits often viewed as uniquely masculine: physical strength and endurance, because of the biological differences, the higher levels of muscle mass and physical strength. And it's also often led to roles that emphasize physical labor or protection as a result, being culturally linked to men. So we have traits that arise from our biological differences, like strength, endurance. Risk taking is another trait that comes up a lot on here. Um, on average, men may take more risk than women, and the trait is sometimes linked to evolutionary roles, where men took risk in hunting and defending their communities. Again, we see that protection role that's tied to both physical strength and risk taking. Stoicism, the ability to endure pain or hardship without showing feelings. I still don't understand why that's important. Like, if you can endure the pain or hardship, why does it matter how much emotion you show in the process? The pain and hardship is still being endured. So the endurance as a trait to me is its own axis, and I don't know what emotionality has to do with one's ability to endure or not. But anyway, Stoicism has been historically valorized as a masculine trait, and this is one of the things that changed in the modern view of men, masculinity. The provider role. Traditionally, men have been seen as the primary breadwinners or providers for their families, which might have to do with hunting, um, again. And that role also is changing in our, what they're calling a more egalitarian society. And then the fifth trait is assertiveness and dominance. And Dobez, this sounds like closer to what you were talking about. Um, Assertiveness is often culturally associated with masculinity. Men are sometimes expected to take charge, to be assertive in leadership roles, and exhibit dominance in competitive situations. And they trace it to biological differences and uniquely masculine experience, because there's certain roles in our society that pretty much only men can experience, such as fatherhood. There's male-specific health issues, etc. Um, so that is what the starting point that Chat GPT gave me for traditional masculinity, not the toxic kind.
Yeah. I mean, in my opinion, I think if you have to boil it down to one thing, masculinity and all the, you can say, additives to it, so it's toxic or a lack of or whatever, at its core, I think it's about how you, the gaining of power and the usage of power, and it comes back to that. I think some form of strength, like historically, masculinity in every society has been determined by the sword. That's how it was thought of, and now it's more about by the word, by the pen. But at its core, I think it's still fundamentally about power.
I agree, especially that word strength, because I've come to kind of the same conclusion when I know the difference between a masculine person and a feminine person. And I was trying to narrow down what exactly that difference is, and strength was one of the things I narrowed it down to. But I wouldn't rule out the possibility that females also desire and attempt to gain power, but perhaps they do it in a different way, and the specific way that men attempt to do it is what we're talking about as masculine, or what those masculine traits cluster around. And not only power over other men socially, but the natural world, the animal kingdom, the agricultural world, etc., the environment.
Yeah, of course. And also, is
Might
it
is
a
right.
coincidence? Is it? It fundamentally might does make right. That is the foundation of existence. However, as a civilized society, we have built a lot of stuff upon that counteracts that. Now might doesn't make right. It's laws that makes right, or morals that makes right. But all of those at its core is about power. The only reason we believe that slavery is bad is because, well, the factions that argued for anti-slavery, they won over the side where slavery was a moral thing. Like the age of antiquity died, and the Middle Ages and Christianity and all that other stuff came, slavery died because the ones with power suppressed it. Like power
So part of that
decides.
was the barbarians gaining power.
Yes, exactly. Because they had a different belief. Like if both of us, if we were born in ancient Athens, we would like maybe we wouldn't support slavery, but we wouldn't see it as a moral wrong either. It was just the way of the world. They lost, and so they were justifiably taken as slaves. They lost. They were weak, and we were strong. That's the way of the world. And if I lost, then I deserve to be taken as slave because strength makes right, power makes right, and it's only later that we've had other, you could say safeguards, but other ways of viewing at it. But before we continue on that, I just have a brief question, Jeff. Was it intentional for you to wear like a camo military clothes for this specific
Sort of
stream?
intentional. I looked in my closet and I said, "We're talking about men today. What's something that would go with that
Ah,
topic?" And the camo jumped out. So,
I don't think I'm
um,
particularly dressed for it, but
but you look good with the background, though. These are very both. We both have very natural colors on.
yeah.
Um, well, you mentioned like law being currently being a form of might or substituting for what in the past might be might, but isn't law just a proxy for might because it's still enforced by power, by might?
Yes, and there you have to distinguish between the legal system as it is in the West and as it is in the East, because in the East, laws and the system was formulated to be an extension of the will of the emperor. So the Chinese laws and legal system, or legalism in its entirety, was sort of a product of the will of the emperor and to push down, like the laws went top down from the king or the emperor in that case down, whilst in a lot of the West, not all, I'm not saying all of the West, but at least the tradition that we today follow and the origin of our laws was fundamentally to equal the playing field between the different levels of society. And it's like the leader is also beholden to the laws, not necessarily to the same extent as the poor people. That's a really
Ideally,
modern
to the
thing.
same extent,
Yes,
maybe
but
not in
that's a more
practice.
modern thing. But at least even back then, they were at least beholden to some of the similar laws, whilst in China, the emperor is the law. And so like, yes, the law is backed by might, but in the case of, for example, China, much more directly than in the West.
So, okay, like going back to strength and power, the ability to assert your will or your dominance would be one of the core traits of a real man. And people that if you're male but fail to do that or don't have the capacity to do that, are you less of a man? Are you less of a real man?
I think it's very important that you say the ability to or the capability to, because I also think it's part of masculinity is this uh, willingness and ableness to actually not exert your power, to know when to do so and be capable of it. You should be capable of being a monster, but you shouldn't be a monster, you know? It's good to be capable to actually push your will against the world, but that doesn't mean you should. But the capability is what matters. A powerful
Yeah, that
person
was kind
never
of the
uses
idea
the
behind the
sword. Is
nobility. Hey,
Yeah.
Busker, welcome.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, do you know what a man is? Do you have any thoughts on what a real man
Well,
is?
a man generally has testicles and a penis.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like the contestants on RuPaul, most of them have testicles and penises. Would anyone consider them real men?
Yeah,
What is a mythical man? What is a mythic
Right,
man?
we're talking about an ideal. Like what is the masculine ideal that other
I mean, like
men
if people wanna,
aspire
if
to
people
express
want
their
to like,
masculinity?
if like, there's some men that want to display
What?
themselves as a female, and that's fine. But that doesn't make them female. They're still male.
But are they male? They're male, but are they real men? Like or
Well,
even
I
gay?
mean,
Am I a real man? I don't know. I don't
Dude,
know if I.
we're all real men. We're just different. All different. Every man is different.
I
I mean,
wonder about that because I can definitely identify, and it's subjective, but I can identify some males as more
Well,
male
like
or
in
masculine than
groups,
others.
yeah, like group, like I'm like individually we're all different, but like yeah, there's certain uh, you can tell there's different. I don't know if you call them sects, SCECTS or not. I don't know if that's even the right word.
The sex.
I don't know. Excuse me. Man, I got this blueberry diesel. It's really nice.
mm,
Oh, that's right. Oh, it sounds like Flueberry Diesel.
yeah,
No,
Let's see, employment.
blueberry diesel, and it's a great.
Okay, Dobes just posted this link from Rudyard
What's that?
Kipling. It's a poem from
I think it's
Rudyard
from Rudyard
Kipling
Kipling.
on
Yeah, it is.
masculinity.
Well, it's not necessarily on masculinity, but I think it's the perfect sort of explanation of it because in the poem or in the song, I suppose, it goes through the central theme of cold iron, but it's from all the different lenses of the West. So it's the sort of warrior side, but it's also the Christian side, like the iron of the cross that it was nailed to, or that like it's a good. There's something about it. Like I've listened to this hundreds of times because the first time I heard it, like there's something here. There's something in this that just it draws me in, uh, especially as I know he takes a side, like he is a Christian, so he places the sort of the Christian cold iron because he begins with the story of a rebellious baron that rebels against his king, and then he's stopped. Like he rebels with his sword, and he's stopped by the iron of the artilleryman at the walls. But then the king forgives him and says that the only iron that is supreme to us is the iron of Christ. So, forgiveness, love, and the ability to withhold power. So you have the sort of aggressive power, defensive power, and also the control of your own power, the ability to withhold and forgive. There's just something about that poem.
That seems stupid. If somebody just tried to overthrow your kingdom and rebel against you, that you would just forgive them and release them back into the kingdom.
Well, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It didn't work with Caesar, but it has worked for a few others. Like, it depends on the person. You have to be harsh, but you also have to be a good leader. If they, as Machiavelli put it, that if you have an enemy, you should either treat them as well as possible, so you can put the bad times behind you, or you have to brutalize them so hard they can never be a threat again. Those two are your only realistic options. You can't pick a middle ground. And so you can't be too nice, or I mean, you can't be just a little nice or a little evil. You have to pick one, because either you need to remove the threat of them either way, and if that comes through love or through force, it doesn't matter because you remove the threats. But it has to be one of those two. And so in this case, it sort of displays this side of the king, who's revealed to be Jesus, of course.
Yeah, if somebody tried treason against me, I would never be able to not see them as a threat again. They would permanently be stained with that image.
Yeah, I mean, if I was a king and someone committed treason against me, say there were 10 barons, 10 lords, I would probably execute the one that's most evil, and the rest I'd forgive. Because, pick an example and you pick the one that's least gonna be on your conscience, and then be nice. If you can see that they are actually somewhat justified, are they just power hungry? Are they justified? Or like, it all depends on the person. That's the thing. You have to be able to control when to use power. It's not something that's it's always good to use it, or it's always good to not use it. You have to have the ability to choose. If you're just a
So that means
warmonger,
your power is in the service of some goal or vision. So
which is
maybe
your own.
is the vision the ultimate determinant of manhood or masculinity, and not the power itself?
Well, no, a vision that you cannot realize is just a nice childhood dream. It has no value if you have no potential to realize it.
But then if you do have the potential to realize it, it seems like the power itself is secondary to the thing that individualizes the power is the vision that it's in the service of.
Yes, I'd certainly agree with that. And it sort of builds this, you could say, almost evolutionarily path that originally the sort of animalistic side of masculinity is this raw power. But then you have this more human conscience, evolved, civilized side is this vision and goal that power is subordinate to. The ability to subordinate power beneath something greater, I think, is a big part of masculinity. So yeah, that's
So it's
really
that something greater than maybe like a real man is a man, a male that's using his power in the service of some ideal that he takes to be greater than himself, that he's aspiring to or striving toward or something.
Well, I guess I'm not a real man then, dude. I've got nothing to do except play music and smoke pot.
I was about to say though, Busker, you're a punk. You play music. You have that that's it. Punk was a very male art form. It was young, angry men. It was
Yeah.
men expressing their frustration at not being able, not having power, and in the process acquiring power through their artistry, their musicianship. That was a form of power.
I love the camaraderie amongst the punks. That was kind of nice. I miss that. That was like the old days.
Yeah, me too. Like the musical subcultures.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really. Part of the reason it held us together was because we were united against some larger world that we didn't feel a part of, and that didn't understand us, and it didn't seem like there was a place for us in. I like that, pseudo. Actually, I like that ideal.
That and sexual frustration tied into it.
Yeah, social, political, and probably at the root of it, sexual frustration.
Yeah.
Because that's what rock and roll was to begin with.
Right.
It pretend in the '60s it pretended to be political, but it was more of a revolutionary movement against sexual repression and of the current existing bourgeoisie morality and power structure. And then it took on a political
well,
tone
that
to
sounds
it
what they did
at
from the
some point
get-go,
after. But it
though.
was all about releasing that aggressive sexual energy, the hippies, the free love. And then it got channeled politically.
And like the punks were like the sons and daughters of the hippies, right? So like the early punks.
Yeah, they were kind of the next revolutionary wave
Yeah,
of rock. And it was directed against classic rock itself
that's right.
and against the political structures. The same political structures, actually, that the hippies were directing it against the man, the establishment,
Yeah.
but
That is
also
true.
not only the technical skill required for classic rock, but the sense that they had sold out to a corporate culture and it was now just a corporate product and it had lost its artistic purity. The option for growth. Um, I like that, Philip. But my first thought was like, why can't women also provide an option for growth? Like, what is it about men specifically and the options they provide or the way they provide those options that make it masculine?
I think that's also the danger of this is defining something as masculine that is more universally just human. Like we have to I do believe that masculinity and femininity, at least to some extent, there are some biological components, like your body. But I think that fundamentally, masculinity and femininity are in us all to a varying proportion, and that generally women tend to be more feminine and less masculine, and men vice versa. But that doesn't mean we
Amen.
don't have tendencies of the others. And for example, tomboys or femboys, they are just a man or a woman with a higher proportion of the opposite tendency. It's natural, and I don't think that women can't be masculine or they can't have masculine tendencies. It's just that on average, those traits are much more frequent in men, and it has to be much more frequent Because if
But when
something
they
is
exhibit those, they're acting like a man. They're no longer
yes,
seen as feminine.
yes,
They're seen as acting like a man. Um, Church of Four, you're absolutely right. And women are certainly invited. I would love to get a female point of view,
I
to get the
remember
outside perspective on
in,
how masculinity appears to non people that are not in that category. But also, I I wanted to run through the qualities that ChatGPT identified as the modern man, because these are the ones that sound like they could apply to any gender. I don't see anything
mm,
specifically masculine about them. Emotional intelligence, responsibility, respect for others, integrity and honesty, supportive relationships, self-improvement, courage, and humility. Those just sound like generic human qualities, but GPT is framing these as the characteristics that make up the modern real man.
the only one there that I can agree with is innately masculine is the courage part. Throughout all of human history, that has been so central to the ideals of a man that they are the courageous one, the ones to risk their lives. But
Well,
that women can also do that. It's not like that they do it every single time they have a child. Like they're risking their lives just as much as men. But it's just
yeah,
that that
and the
has
way they define it, I think it's even more degenderized, because it says not just about physical bravery, but also about standing up for what's right, taking risk when necessary, and facing life's challenges with resilience. And a lot of the social justice stuff seems to be driven by females, and I would say that's a form of
yeah,
standing up for what's right
yeah,
and
at least
risk
what they
taking.
see is right.
Of course, they seem to have to do it in groups and packs.
Isn't that maybe that's a more feminine tendency, the ability and willingness to mobilize groups?
But then what are war? Like, what's war?
Yeah,
And armies and
exactly.
war
That's what I was
bands.
thinking. And so my second thought after that was maybe there is sort of a distribution that's sort of in the middle there. You have women that the really small, you're alone, that's more masculine, and then the small group mobilization is more feminine, and then the large group again is more masculine. But that's just needlessly complicated, and I don't think that's it.
I
But
saw where
maybe,
the Women's March got rebranded as the People's March,
yeah.
and it's to include immigrants, LGBT, minorities. The Pussy Hats that marched the first time Trump was elected. They're marching again, but now they're marching as the People's
the people's pussy
March, and
hats.
because they had a lot of like infighting and internal division over the last eight
So
years, and they're
now
trying to overcome that.
Yeah.
are they
Well, when
still
they lost the moral high ground was when they added the black stripes on the pride flag. Like, what is that? What
Oh,
is?
the
Are you saying
progressive.
black people are innately gay? Like, that's the only thing. That's the first thing I think when I see a pride flag with those brown
What, like
stripes. But
black and gay?
yeah, like no, yeah, like that they include blackness as part of the pride flag,
Here's
and I'm
someone that can
I
tell us
no,
what a
don't
real
yeah.
get
man
it.
is.
Like,
Dude,
are you
like
saying black
are they,
people are gay because they have a lot of kids? I don't think so.
are they still Jeff, are they still wearing the pussy hats and shit?
Um, that's a good question. The article read today had a picture of them in the Pussy
They
Hats,
should rebrand
but it could have
themselves.
been an old picture. Let's see,
The
People's
Volta
March.
hats. I mean, or something. They should rebrand themselves. Volta hat.
Thousands expected at People's March on Inauguration Day.
Oh,
Um,
that reminds me.
Oh my
A few
god,
years
man.
ago, in Iceland, half the population, like half of all women and adults, they went on a march because they wanted to prove that the economy and the nation can't run without them. It ran completely fine. Nothing changed. Like
Yeah.
200,000, no, not 200, like 100,000 women in Iceland, a population of 300,000. The nation continued. The governments continued working. The police continued working. The economy didn't stop. Like that didn't
Women
really
are,
help their point.
you can't deny that. We're all from women. You have a mother, and to be like discourage that, and I don't think we should. in terms of where we're trying to seek it. Like the feminist idea would be like, yeah, we don't need men, let's get rid of men. The men appear that if were the bad homosexual to that hates women rather than embraces that, it would be okay, yeah, let's make humans. All we need is something else. We've got the sperm, we create the seed something. There's mechanisms that we're probably seeking now to do that, which is, is it because we can? And I guess we can. So is that right? That's an ethical question over many ideas here. But generally, yeah, as you go on about being good men, is that what this is about? Being strong.
Well, we're trying to figure out what's a real man when people talk about.
You're all real men. I mean,
Yeah, but some people would
What's a
argue
man?
about that.
Man.
Like even Busker himself said that, oh, he must not be a real man.
I mean, look,
Yeah.
look. You're never going to have in terms of where you go through, as I did in military career. You go through that, and only when you get your first firefight, if you will, your engagement, when it first comes to contact, then you realize where you stand, what type of a man you become over that.
Yeah,
Because
I
there
mean,
That's
is
a
a
good point. Like a
reality.
rite of passage. If you
Oh yeah,
pass a
man.
certain rite of
Yeah, yeah,
passage,
yeah.
then you get the
You become
status
a
of real
fight
man.
or flight man. There's two
that's
different
right.
things. Fight or flight, and I'm a fight, but always looking again, trained that self-preservation is the key. I'm just gonna like, oh shit, that guy's gonna kill somebody there, and try like jog over if I can get hit by a fucking car. Or if it's close and I have to deal with it, I will. Close quarters. If there's something I can't because it endangers my life, I'll try to save other people to get them through. You
I
understand?
think trials and tribulations make a man. That's my fucking take on it.
Mistakes make us as well.
But
That's it.
don't they make a woman too?
Like
Well,
like developing as a man, that naturally happens. I mean, how do you not become a man?
Busker, you know that we're probably one of the only sort of generations from the boomers that have been raised by a female rather than in tow with men, rather predominantly. That's the other thing that's happened over that. The mothers are staying at home and that. But where a lot of the time as you grow up as a boy, you'd be out in the fields or fucking fixing cars or doing some fucking hard ass work away from school. All the teachers are men. You have that men are men, women are separate, and that field has changed. And I'm not saying that we don't understand that females, because when we're really young, we should be brought up by grandparents, a grandmother, grandfather,
I
if you will.
was.
There we go. So that's the key here. So you learn something that your parents didn't learn from their parents, but you learn it. But they learn something from their parents outside of so that key chain goes on. Because life is again a journey of it, and if we have healthier societies, we have a healthy unit. We should, mum, dad, brother, sister, all that stuff into the community.
Yeah, I don't know how realistic of an ideal that is anymore. With
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, I know.
breakdown of the nuclear family
Yeah,
and
yeah.
people just not having families as
No,
much anymore, at
absolutely.
least
Yeah,
traditional
there is a
ones.
cliff. Yeah, you're right. There's a massive cliff on that, and we should look at that and figure out why that's happening, and engage with people actually slowing the fuck down. We shouldn't have things on tow like this all the time. Our economy shouldn't be about just growth, growth, growth. We need growth. We need to slow down. We need to tear up our fucking gardens and start growing stuff. We need to go back to nature.
Well, that's
Truly.
nice if you can wave a magic wand and make that happen, but
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
that's what it's doing, it seems
Yeah.
wise to build around what it's actually doing until we understand what's
Well,
going on.
wouldn't that be like again a line in the sand with where we say we're homogenous as a society, as a civilization? As if you say that the communist world that we know to the free capitalists, where do you sit between? Because as far as I can see, for a long time we've had this sort of Stasi thing that's happened throughout the Western Foundation, where our governments have become sort of liberals, as the young man said before, with all these rainbow flags and what was it black and brown for? It's like, hey, blacks and browns, you part of that shit, man. Yeah, you're gay.
You're gay too, yeah.
You're gay too. Well done. Woo! It's just the absurdity of it, because people don't see that we're we're market, we're a product.
Oh,
You're
you're
very
fading out a
muffled
little
now.
bit.
Sorry.
And men police other men. So if there wasn't this like ideal that men are expecting other men to live up to, there wouldn't be all this policing either. So the fact that the policing even happens tells me that there's some standard that men are trying to nudge other men into meeting.
I would love to think that you know because you would go up to like the highest echelons of society, wouldn't you? I think up there. Well, how can I put this? The officers, you get beasted by sergeants that have been in the military for at least 16 years or something. And they're the guys that are pushing the recruits that are going to become the officers of tomorrow and will lead the soldiers that they are into battle. So there's that. Not just that there's a separation. That dichotomy exists because they need to know that you're fighting and dying for each other no matter what, right? And that line I see that we're losing is that understanding that that's what keeps us together as a union and a group as what we've come from. America is the greatest example because it left the fight with the Catholics and the crown, and it
We
came
were the
into
original punks.
yeah, of course. And where it's evolved to is different because of how corrupt or because we've become so rich and wealthy. We've lost sight and lost track of what is the important things. And that's why it's so bad at the moment. Because it feels so bad.
I don't know how bad it is versus like a social media illusion of
Well,
bad from people
well
that are
I,
doom
I,
scrolling all day.
but look
But
at
is that why men police other men because they're trying to find the men they can trust to form the
Or they
groups that
have
they need
a
to
power
form with?
trip. I mean, like there could be a lot of reasons, but a lot of the times it's a power trip.
I would say guaranteed it is. We are very competitive. Who's got the biggest cock in the room,
Right.
and we that's the competitive notion. How rich am I, or what car I drive, or these things are very to us toys. So we seek them because we don't have the mother. That's why they say we always have things that we cling on to. The one thing that we cling on to, we go search for the next, and we always try to achieve it higher and higher. These fundamentals come from our I guess we have to, from the mother's milk sort of thing. Once that is changed, it becomes different and separate. You have your blankie, you have something, and you move on from that.
Yeah, go from mother's milk to fucking Kool-Aid.
Well, yeah, man. Basically, yeah. It's
That's
like
what
a
happened.
primal example of how
Real men drink Kool-Aid.
real men drink Kool-Aid. Yeah, I like
That,
it. Oh,
that was
wine.
Kool-Aid was pretty masculine actually. He busted through walls. Hey, that's a lot of strength.
the Kool-Aid.
Why
He
aren't we
busted
taking
through a wall
Kool-Aid
when
as
he
the
could take the
masculine
door.
ideal?
That isn't. He could take the door, and instead he destroys a wall.
Right. He's like, I'm going through the wall. But
Bloody
He's
example.
angry. He's sexually frustrated. He needs to release his juice.
dirty, that's a choice. You eating the wrong
He
philosophy.
needs to release
Wait,
his-
it's dirty? I thought it's a duty. I thought it was duty dog.
Duty dog. No, no. Dirty,
Oh,
dirty,
okay.
dirty. So I guess, well, maybe did we settle it already? It's whoever has the biggest. Yeah,
What?
yeah.
I mean, the Greeks, they view the peak of masculinity as.
Biggest
Okay,
cod piece.
no, but they purposely made the dicks of their statues small because it symbolized control and masculinity. These barbarians that were unkept, uncontrolled, that was uncivilized, because civilized was basically just another way for them of saying a proper man. And so, they viewed having big dicks as representative of being a bit barbaric, a bit unmanly.
Well, like
So-
in society, you can define men as you see it like the rollers. Like that's their man.
I'm telling you now, you do a 20-miler run, all right? You do 20 miles, your dick is going to be shriveled. You understand?
From just
When you-
running?
Just running, yeah, because from when you go over like 12 miles and stuff, your body starts like
Oh,
eating
it
and
shows
stuff.
how
And you
much I
still got to
run.
go,
Yeah.
you know. You got to beat through the wall and all that shit, man. Yeah, it does. Yeah, elephant dick as they call it, because you got an elephant trunk. Then it's not like fuck, man.
Oh,
It's
I've
like
heard of
come
crystal
back
dick.
out. Yeah, man. I mean, these again, the most again. I'm ex-military, so the peak of my prime was with loads of people, loads of men, like in fucking showers and boxing each other and fucking doing all sorts of crazy crap all the time. You know, giving us all sorts of fucking stupid things to try to get through the day or while we have downtime. It's pretty nuts. You know what I mean? And it, again, like some of that shit, it can get pretty damn gay. I've seen some weird stuff. I'd be questionable. Like, why would you do that? Oh, it was a bet. I was like, dude, it was
Dirty.
pretty.
You're an adult. You have a choice at this point. You're not a prisoner of your whatever chemistry and was going on before you even gained consciousness. You have consciousness now that gives you some wiggle room to direct your artistic choices.
What is
Well,
that?
I think the alpha is just a descriptive term for whoever's at the top of whatever hierarchy you're looking at.
Yeah.
Well, no, it depends. I've gone into. I mean, nigga, and I get lots of that shit where I'm not the boss in the room, but people come up to me and talk to me. I'm like, you need to direct it to him.
Well, when you say
Yeah.
hierarchy, that's
Well, no,
not
but that's
always
the
the
boss.
one
I mean,
that's like that's more socially determined. Like what
no,
it's not that
absolutely.
Or
So
structurally. Like
Yeah,
y'all may really not be aware of this, but I'm the alpha here, whether it appears that way or not.
yeah, well,
Just the way YouTube channels are
yeah.
structured has me
that's
in that
very
role
true, Jeff.
permanently.
Yeah,
But
I
at
would
the
agree
same
with that.
time,
Yeah.
without your
Yeah.
guests, you wouldn't be as prominent as you are. And so it's is it
And
reciprocal
hierarchies
or
can be fluid too,
reciprocal? Reciprocal.
especially in the modern world. Like I think in a democratic liberal society, they're more open and fluid.
So again, if we're going to the power field, that's why we have dicey, don't we? The
That's what we
dicey,
have.
dicey, dicey. It's called dicey rule of law. It means that you have three separates of our government. One, the judiciary. You got the
Yeah, I
executive.
know the
That's
separation of
called
powers.
that's called dicey rule of law. That's from a guy who wrote it, Dicey. So you didn't know that.
No, it was Montesquieu who
No, it's
proposed.
dicey. It's dicey. Yeah, Montesquieu came up with a
Wow,
different
you pronounce it more
figure on it.
French than even I do.
Yeah, but it's true. He's right. You are right where it comes from, because he said the separations of power have to be like this, because of the idea of having affluence rather than what Dicey was, as in terms of where the power structure is. So none of them become too powerful and
And
overwhelm.
there's multiple hierarchy. There could be competence hierarchies, economic hierarchies,
Yeah, but it still separates these certain powers.
intellectual hierarchies of strength,
How do you write that?
credential
Dicey?
hierarchies.
DIECY.
We're just a whole network of hierarchies at this point.
Wait, what did it say? Okay.
Hey
Dicey,
Joe, are you
Dicey rule of law.
are you around?
There it is.
And then there's Sigma. Like I'm Sigma, so hierarchies don't even mean the same
that-
thing to me
okay.
that they do to non-Sigmas. So there's an individual aspect to hierarchies too.
I mean, within all structures, there's going to be, and some are protected better than others because of the office that they sit at. So where they get like caveats to be secret, you know what I mean? It's only when you have whistleblowers that come out with it. That's the whole thing about the NSA and GHCQ and all that shit that with Snowden and all that came through. Because the idea that, hang on, they're spying on you boys without you knowing. Literally, they can look into everything that you know like that. You're not allowed to, not your choice.
That's the present moving forward.
Say again?
That's the present moving forward in the past.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we create so much data every week. It's almost in terms of probably like 5,000 years of human information
Yeah.
every week at the moment. A lot of it is just bullshit. I mean, complete fucking bull, but it's still information.
Yeah. Right.
It's mad. It's absolutely insane.
Here is the guy who generated this topic in the first
I'll be
place,
right back.
Ricardo.
Oh, welcome.
This came out of a conversation we were having.
Yeah,
420.
I suggested it, didn't I? Because it's something that I think about kind of almost pretty much every day, along with occasional thoughts about how and when I'm gonna die. But I try and put that to the back of my mind because I'm more, it's more important to live while you're alive and,
Yeah.
sort of sleep when you're dead. Is it
You
Bon
think
Jovi?
about
Bon
your
Jovi hit?
masculinity and if you're a real man.
Yeah, so I think about it every day, and you walk around, you see other men, I don't know if everyone else does it, but you just kind of you naturally compare yourself to others, and you think, well, and I think is there anything I could learn from that, that guy over there that seems to be doing pretty well. It's all the qualities that I respect in a person. It doesn't have to be a man, I guess, but cleanliness, good hygiene,
Oh,
honesty, trustability, reliability, and all the virtues. So I think
do you find those in women? Like, or is it limited to men, or
sometimes
do you just mostly notice it in men more?
I'd say it's more obvious in men. Like
Because those seem
you
like good
can
quality,
tell.
especially the cleanliness part. Real men definitely take showers, hopefully.
Oh yeah, man,
I
you
would
look
hope
after
real
yourself.
women also take showers.
Yeah,
Definitely.
but
They have other issues
I
because
just
we don't
assume
have
the
that
women do.
environment.
It's the men I would more worry
You don't
about.
want to be getting that. You don't want to be getting that swan pass. That's not nice.
Man, I had a girlfriend who couldn't wipe her ass properly. I only knew it because
You don't have to go. Here
You
comes the
went down there
busting
one
part
day,
of the
didn't you?
conversation.
You
doggy
had to see
style.
it.
The
You had to
doggy
see it.
style.
Okay, yeah, we. What a vivid picture you've painted.
I had to cover her butt with my shirt.
Ricardo, another thing I remember about the conversation is you said how comfortable you were having emotions and expressing them, and you didn't feel like that compromised you as a man at all. But there are some lines of thought, especially like I read the Stoicism part of the ChatGPT description, that enduring pain and not showing emotion while you're doing so is seen by some as a masculine virtue. Which I don't understand that part either. I don't know what
I mean,
emotion has to do with enduring pain at all.
where's he
We
gone?
lost
Where's
him.
he gone?
He'll probably come back.
Hopefully he'll come back. Yeah. I think being honest, I think, is the hardest thing to do when you make a mistake, and it's that thing of I can't get a job because I don't have experience, and I can't get experience because I don't have a job. But then the notion is, experience comes from well, no, well, good judgment comes from experience, and experience comes from bad judgment, where we have to kind of gain that and go through those processes to understand. Because when I say go to a job I've never done before, I have to look at plans, or the guy draws them up and we look at it, and then we get the stuff, the parts that come through. Sometimes they're not done right, and you have to figure out how to fucking put this together with what you have. Do we rebuild the wall? Do we, all that other stuff? But each time it's a different protocol of that, and say we have 50 of these things to do. The first, second, third will take long, but afterwards it just we streamline it and get it better and better and better. So it saves us money, time, and effort. And that's why I think that, a lot of people don't. A lot of men these days aren't taught that anymore.
Or
They're all,
what?
computer geeks. Well, a lot of people aren't hands-on as much as you think,
Are
man. And,
computer geeks real men? That's a good question.
Ooh.
man is,
Well,
so
considering most of my friends are, I have to
I've
say
always-
yes.
I think they are, because I've always been into computers, and I'm not mega into them, but I have
What a
built
fortune.
computers.
Megger into
I've broken them down. I've done a computer course at college, so
dude, I love PCs, man. I'm building them from the age of like knee-high to a grasshopper. I said 386 or 286. I think was my first
I
PC.
think masculinity, there's a drive to whatever a man wants to do, whether it's, nerdy stuff or whatever. I mean,
It
shit.
just seems
But I
more
said that earlier,
masculine when
didn't I?
it's
But I
not
said that earlier.
computers.
From the tit, we always seek something to do it. We always have that's something that we want, that we go towards. Well, the main problems with lots of things that happen is addiction that breaks things down, and habit probably as well. Which is rather than addiction, it'd be habit, wouldn't it? So you get involved in too many of the same habits, and then you can lose track of what you need to do.
Can't get my. You see how it's like there? That's where it
It's
should
it's
stay.
right behind you, bro.
But if I move my hand,
Oh, we got Shiva today.
gone.
Oh, a god.
Welcome.
How to you?
Good evening. Am I edible to you?
Yeah, edible.
That's what I said, Jeff. That's what I said.
Oh.
I can hear.
Maybe
you.
not yet. You have to soften up a bit, but after that, maybe.
Hey, shouldn't you be licking the sun? Get to it. Come on. Hop, hop. I'd like to propose a different model for masculinity and femininity, which I don't know how many of you are going to like or agree with. In this model, compassion is masculine and wisdom is female. The reason being is that compassion is an other regarding, outward moving energy, whereas wisdom is a receptive energy. So if you're looking at things slightly more symbolically, then you can say that compassion as a type of activity is a masculine activity because it's other regarding and outward moving, and that wisdom is a feminine activity because it's receptive and open.
I would also
So
make
it sounds like
opposite
you're tying
argument, though.
masculinity, femininity to the
Outwards and inwards.
direction that something moves or is oriented toward.
Yeah, I would probably
I
say the
mean-
opposite then. That this outward regarding, that's more feminine, and this more inner life, inner calmness, inner regard is more masculine. If you have to
Right.
determine those two as either
Yeah.
masculine and feminine.
But
I think both.
the reason
Both.
why I say that is because when you look at the activities that men and women largely do, largely it's men who are other regarding and outward moving. It's men who build stuff. It's men who look after the tribe. And
Amen.
whilst it's not particularly soft or nurturing, it is kind, which is the basis of compassion.
Shiva, yeah. Wouldn't you say like of wise King Solomon and the tale of the child that the two mothers were arguing over? It's my child. No, it's my child. So Solomon said, "Let's cut it in half."
Right.
And the one woman went, "No, don't do that. Just let her have the kid." And Solomon went, "It's your child." Because the other one was like, "Yeah, let's cut it in half then." So, was that compassion or wisdom at the same time?
I would say that was apocryphal.
But we have it in us.
I mean, it's like that's coming from an entirely different system, and I don't think you can always map systems onto each other. So what I'm talking about doesn't come from the Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition.
Okay, then let's go to the Greeks then. You go to the Greek enterprise.
No, I'm going to India,
Okay.
China, Tibet, places like that.
That would
So
be
the kind of view on masculinity and femininity in those systems.
about this.
is somewhat different.
Yes.
Um,
I really
Everything
Sounds
is
like a
in the West and East.
sounds like a spiritual pilgrimage. Church of
I
Thought.
mean, as long as it doesn't
Don't
involve
go.
me walking anywhere, sure.
Well, now you can do them
Fair enough.
virtually, I think.
Because I'm a lazy motherfucker, you know.
You can't visit a country virtually, Jeff. You have to go in person, don't you?
Well, not there in 2020. Google had all these virtual tours you could take of places all over the world through Google Earth.
Dude, you can't do that. I mean, that's just a virtual look at before you go, maybe. But
Well, I mean,
In
if you're
fact,
fat, lazy, or homebound,
I'm not fat and
it's a
lazy.
decent alternative.
I'm just lazy.
Oh, okay. I was just- Well, good. See,
In
I would
fact,
say
in,
that's a masculine quality that he owns his laziness.
In Mahayana Buddhism, the thing that I just talked about is actually made explicit in that Avalokiteshvara is the bodhisattva of compassion. He's normally presented as being female. There is a Chinese version, a Chinese and a Japanese version called Kuan Yin, or Kwanon, depending on whether it's China or Japan, and they are presented as female. But in India and Tibet, he's male. And Pranya Paramita, which is the Paramita means perfection and Pranya means wisdom. So the embodiment of the perfection of wisdom is always portrayed as a female deity. And I one of the reasons why I like that model is that it's not saying one is negative and one's positive. It's saying that actually these are kind of like, because we both have masculine and feminine inside of us, right? Like so we can cultivate these
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah.
Yeah, some more than others, I think. But is it like Eastern culture is a culture where they all sit around anyway, so their models are more based on
What do you mean? I mean,
like
you know, if
conceptual
you
or
live in
like
India,
less active and more.
well, I mean, you've still got to grow food and build houses and do the stuff that people do.
Is it the men that grow the food that build the houses? Like it's
It's the
division of
men.
labor,
It depends.
gendered.
I'm reading a book by what's the name? Kamala Tianovich called Forest Recollections, which is it's a book about these people called Tudong monks, who were Buddhist monks who lived in Thailand at the start of the 20th century. Man, those guys were fucking hardcore. They were hard as fuck.
20th century, and they're not around anymore.
Well, yeah, because for two reasons. One, Thailand wanted to move away from rural forms of Buddhism to a more academic, kind of less, more rational form of Buddhism. And then also you had the explosion of industry, which necessarily means that you have the removal of the jungles, and it was in the forests that these Tudong monks used to practice. They didn't live in the monasteries with the other monks. They would like go out into the jungles, sometimes by themselves or with a couple of disciples or friends, and then just go and meditate in the forests with the tigers and the snakes and the
That
elephants.
sounds
But the monks who lived in the monasteries, that they actually helped out building, like doing all kind of building and farming and construction and whatnot. Well, that seems to have killed the conversation. Should we talk about
No,
boobs
I'm
instead?
still thinking it's I'm
I mean,
so unfamiliar with the Eastern paradigm.
Okay,
It's hard
so
for me to even
to
switch
me,
my concepts.
The point of the philosophy, which is Buddhism, it's not a religion, it's a philosophy, correct?
Well,
There's no religious connotation to it. No, it isn't, because it's the individual that you are in this universe.
well,
You seek nirvana, so you don't have to. You have no.
Well,
one. There's no,
well, well, well,
They-
well. There are no gods in Buddhism, so So it's an atheistic system, but it has many of the trappings of religion. So the form of practice that tends to have the strongest effect on me is something called puja, which is a form of devotional practice in which you make prostrations and recite verses before a shrine, and that could look very similar to prayer, right, or some kind of Catholic ritual, or whatever. The emphasis is different, but many of the trappings that one would associate with a religion you get in Buddhism. So I kind of see where you're coming from. It's an odd one, right? Like, it's not.
Before Buddhism, there's Jain, isn't there? Is it Jain?
Well, Jainism is a different system, and arose out of the Vedas. Yeah.
From, isn't it? Like anything. Well, we're
no,
well,
no. Buddhism doesn't come from Jainism. No.
Oh, Buddhism doesn't come from Jainism.
No, it bounced out of India, just like Hinduism and Jainism.
Yeah. I mean, but it's still part of that structure where
Buddha, but they're different
all of them
religions.
are dharmic, yes, but they are separate religions.
Yeah, but where Buddha comes from, he rejects like Francis of Assisi almost. He rejects those notions that they say, and then goes out to the world and teaches his own thing because he finds
because it's a separate religion. So it comes from the same contextual milieu, right? It shares many similar concepts with other systems that are around at the time, but I don't think that you can argue that it comes from those systems.
Okay, do you think that like anything, there's this term called intertextuality, right? You know what that is, correct?
Intertextual. I mean, I'm not a feminist.
Intertextuality. It describes the notion that all text, all verse that we have comes from another source, and they take it, blah 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 blah. It evolves through intertextuality, right. where all our works, and that, like where we have antiquity, if you will, from those regions.
Yeah, well, you actually see that in the work of the Buddha. So in his early days, he would often use the language of the Vedas. So he'd talk about what is the perfect Brahmin, and he would use the language of the Brahmins, but then he dropped that
as the example, right, rather than as what he did.
Isn't a Brahmin a cow?
No, a Brahmin is a holy man.
No, it's a holy man. Section.
But then he dropped the use of the word Brahmin and started instead referring to his disciples as bhikkhus and bhikkhunis for the females, and then started talking about, well, what's a good bhikkhu?
Yeah, I'm thinking of Fallout 4 because the Brahmin is a two-headed,
right,
two-headed cow.
Yeah, it is. That's right.
Brahmin.
Fallout 1 as well, the original. Fallout
I'm just going to say that Fallout New Vegas is the best Fallout game.
Okay, fair play. I'll give you that. They didn't get the chance. ZeniMax should have given more time to them, man. Bethesda screwed that up, man. Sorry.
Bethesda apparently don't like ever referring to New Vegas because they didn't fucking make it, and it's far and away like the most popular Fallout game.
It is, yeah. But they I know, they're stranglehold of that thing. Anyway, back to the subject at hand here. When we go on about the men issue and the what it is structurally, where we should understand one another, right? Is that the better way of putting it? And
well, I mean, I don't think that's a man issue. That's a people issue, isn't it?
Well, don't you think? Like, again, you said it before. It was you, wasn't it? That men, we are the fighters. We have to actually look after.
No, that's not what I said. I didn't use the word fighter.
Okay,
I said that compassion was masculine, which is kind of the opposite of fighting.
Throughout history, we've been disposable, correct? That's why the World War I, World War II, and all the other things,
right,
men had to fight.
But surely we agreed that viewing people as being disposable is not a good thing.
Well, but of course not. But nevertheless, that is
right. So I mean, I wouldn't use that as a marker for anything. The fact that men historically have been disposable, to me, that's not something. That's not something to hold up as a virtue. That's something to point at and go, "That's shit. Why are we doing that?"
The virtue of that was either to seek riches and to come back with them, and then what you do with it, your own, which is your capital, or plunge, rape, and pillage, and all that from the old world, or expand and bring forth new identity, right? And so those that went out there were mainly, of course, men. Women came later, if those lands were again cultivated and we got to stay and settle there. Like many.
I mean, that's not the case for America, though, is it? Or Australia?
Well, Britain had that, and most of Europe has had that, because we've had ebbs and flows of many kingdoms.
Well, so do you think that the men came to Britain first and that the women came later?
No, I mean, in terms of where we're talking modern Britain, no, the women have always been with the men, in some respect there. But when we've settled, and then we've had invasion, and that invasion has made. That's when it has come in later on.
It has actually,
that may not be entirely accurate, because I think there were shield maidens on Viking ships. Like you actually had female, not many, no, but Vikings are one of the few cultures historically that did actually have female warriors. So we may actually have had female warriors coming over here and kicking our asses.
Xena.
You have Boudica, don't you? You have Boudica. So Boudica is a prime example of that, but she was
yes.
Yeah, but she was pathetic.
Is she a real man?
I'll just throw that out there.
I mean, is she a real man, though? That's a good question, Jeff.
Well, we have a Viking authority with us. What do you have to say about
a
Viking?
She was an.
The guy from
she was Celtic, wasn't she?
Celtic.
Yeah,
but would you call it Celtic, Brittonic? Like, you're the Anglo, sir. What do you call it? What do you call Boudica? What is she?
She would be an Angle, wouldn't she?
But she would almost be Danish, wouldn't she? She'd be from that side.
Why was Boudica? Wasn't she with the Romans?
No,
ancient British Iceni tribe. It's the tribe called the
Iceni. That's way before the Anglo-Saxons came. The Anglo-Saxons came after the Romans.
Or she from the Danes? Which one?
British.
No. She was in Britain at the time, but her ancestry were from different regions.
No, it's an ancient tribe of Eastern Britain during the Iron Age. The Iceni.
But her grandfather came. They settled there under a certain law.
Yeah, I know, but if she was born there, she was British. That's kind of how it works, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the reason they kind of said no, and she went to war, is because the Romans were like, "Well, we don't give a fuck. We don't give a fuck about that treaty." And then she was like, "What?" Because they killed her husband and all that, and she went on the warpath with them. Almost got there.
Yeah,
but has most of the conquering been done by men and the settling? And all that, is that a male thing?
Not necessarily the settling. Often, yes, but not always. An interesting thing, actually, is that there's a big difference between the Indo-European conquest of Europe and of India. In India, it was mostly just the men who came, and they took local wives. But in Europe, they also brought their women. So they slaughtered everyone and came in with the women. Or, for example, the Spanish conquests of the Incas and Aztecs. A lot of the early colonizers were fundamentally men, for the most part, who came in and took local wives, whilst the Americans, they brought theirs. So it depends on the time and place. I know that the Vikings, they did both. I don't exactly know if it differed between the places, but sometimes the men came in, took wives and settled, and other times they brought their families. I suppose it depends on how old they were, like that band. If it's a bunch of 30-year-olds who already have wives, they'd bring their own. But it all depends.
I don't think that you can argue that making war is a masculine effort. I think historically, whenever you've had female leaders, they've been just as likely to declare a war as like a queen is just as likely to declare a war as a king.
You know what's funny? Actually, a few researchers did some statistical analysis of all European monarchs, like big monarchs, and women are more likely to declare wars than men. But it's not.
Is that because there's so many little of them, right?
I don't know why, but I think it's the expectation. A bit. I think it's kind of somewhat the expectation in that they are women. they are
Gotta be
filling a
now.
man's role, and so they want to prove themselves. I think
mean,
Yeah,
that's
I mean, I
what
think it's much more. Yeah, I mean, isn't it
Having
likely to
was
be
all
the
the
fact that in order to project a view that they should have the role that they hold, they tend to have to be more aggressive than male counterparts.
Well, hang on,
Yeah.
Shiva, wouldn't you say that Elizabeth I is one of the great queens, and it was only because of her council and her court, and she killed a lot of them. But the men under that, Marlowe was there. There was John Dee. There was Sir Francis Drake. You know, there were quite a few people. You know, there was a Cromwell as well, correct? So it just shows you.
Cromwell was a different monarch.
No, there are two Cromwells, aren't there, through the times?
Oh, right.
Aren't there?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, in
There are,
England, the name
there are
Cromwell has a very
either.
particular association with a
Yeah.
specific
Yeah, I know
historical event.
Oliver.
exactly. There were two Cromwells there. Yeah, two big ones in the time, and one was Elizabeth, and Cromwell was the other.
I mean, look, my knowledge of Elizabethan history comes from Blackadder too. So, I mean, you know.
Oh shit, man. Dude! I mean, the errors of what Britain has had, and again under the woman, dude. Believe me, it's pretty. Yeah, you know, you can't dismiss women in that regard at all. You know, I've always thought that
I don't dismiss women at all.
good man. But the men would go out to fight, and the woman would be there with the children because the enemy comes. They'd dispatch the child before they dispatch themselves.
Sorry.
Nasty old planet we live in.
I mean, in the UK, Margaret Thatcher, she started a war. The Falklands.
No, she didn't. She defended those lands.
Yeah, she did. No. She declared war on Argentina.
Yeah, but
because
but that was an invasion of the treat. You know, that's our land. And I give
that's
you the
how I
fact that
land.
Harold,
That's how I land on the other side of the planet. Get off.
Yeah,
I
I
think
think that you took it first.
This is the greatest of it, isn't it?
But even if she started a war, she's not the one fighting in the war. That's mostly the men.
Yeah,
She wasn't allowed to. She wasn't allowed. You're not allowed.
I mean, to be fair, give it another 50 years and blokes won't be fighting in wars either.
Yeah, but then there's robots and drones, bro.
It
Oh,
will
right,
be-
the robot dogs.
Sorry, man.
It will be robots that are fueled by biological matter that are fighting the
Oh, that's
wars.
terrifying.
Eating you away.
That's a good point. Then what are the men going to do? Because if strength is our core quality, and the robots can outmatch us there, what
Strength
what
isn't
is
our
the new value
core
that men
quality.
have
Problem solving is
to
our core
society?
quality,
Probably.
isn't it?
But the AI might.
We're
Problem
clever.
solving
We
isn't
overcome.
uniquely
We
masculine
overcome.
either.
We're very smart.
No.
Yes, we are. We're extremely smart. People don't see that because they're.
I think so too. I think we are. Like just humans in general, but certainly men will add to that.
Yeah, I mean it's remarkable. I think there's a lot of slowdown for a long time, and especially when you got to if you take an engineer or a mathematician or somebody in chemistry, and that you can't woke that shit. But every other sort of platform is being woke the fuck out and shown. This you can't fuck around with these fundamentals anymore. Things are real.
Can.
No,
You
you
can.
can't. Well, because-
In California, they tried to change the math curriculum because 1 + 1 being 2, that was racist, and they almost succeeded.
Oh, dude, but it doesn't. No, I'm just that.
And they
fucking
lowered the
cool.
math requirement. You don't even have to know
but
math to
that-
graduate.
You're still gonna get some that are gonna come out of there. You have to. We always have to have those people that will.
Well, we got the
know-
H-1B visas for
Come on.
those that don't.
The issue then is it's degrading because the elitists become more powerful all the time over what shouldn't be there. You know, we have grammar schools. You know what those are, and they should be for like the kids that are the smartest, but generally the poorest. You know, you have a lot to go through.
That's a UK thing. I thought that was just your public school system, your basic school
I
system.
mean, I don't think it works the same way in today's terms because of our education.
Sorry, what are you talking about? UK schools?
Well,
I'm
grammar
from the
school.
England,
I
so
know you.
What's a grammar
The
school?
England.
Grammar
Did you go to
school.
one?
I actually used to go to a grammar school. So
Yeah.
grammar schools used to be. I don't think they actually really exist anymore.
Or-
Maybe they do,
The-
but they used to be for where the posh people would send the posh kids,
Oh,
No,
okay.
but
so they could get a
grammar-
proper
yeah,
education.
but grammar school still had. They had to give at least 15% to poorer kids and give them those scholarships.
Yeah, but only the smart ones.
Yeah, but yeah,
Okay, I thought they were
that-
just the
yeah, but
regular
that's
public
big-
school.
You'd have to take a test in order to get into a grammar
I
school.
understand. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
It's still that's the whole point of merit. I was saying before, I was in the military for the British Army, by the way, and yeah, man, we had merit. Like I think I started with almost 90 men, and by the end of the whole fucking thing, right to me joining my unit, we were only about 16. That's it, out of like almost 100 men. Shows you the pass rate was hard. That's a good thing. I don't think it's a bad
Yes,
thing.
it is, of course.
Yeah, we have to have those. If you can't match that, get the fuck out the room. You're done, out. And there were
Right.
many.
Wait, what's a good thing?
Well,
that you
having
have selection mechanisms.
selection.
Oh,
And why-
Yeah,
gatekeeping.
that would be a good thing
standards.
if it was applied to every single pupil. But if you only have to take, say, like
No,
5 or 10%
That's,
on
yeah.
merit, but you can just take the rest because they're from the right families, then that system isn't so great, really, is it?
But that's what sustains it. If they don't get the money from the rich families, they can't exist. And so maybe
never-
it's
So they
I'm
let
not-
in the rich families, even if
Yeah,
they
but
don't
never-
meet the standards, and then the
never-
rest of the
never-
people that
never
do
gonna
benefit
stop.
from it.
No, they do that anyway.
Nepotism will never stop, though. You can't take that out of the equation. That's it. It's kind of
Right.
looking at.
So we should just accept it.
No, of course not. No. No, again, govern to where you are in society. I believe there should be, and always, accountability. That's what's lacking with our political standards. Again, within the corporate world and all sorts. No one's been done. You saw the guys from Enron. They jumped out the fucking building. They knew shit was going down. There was a lot, that sort of stuff. I don't see that.
I actually went to the same school that Laurel and Hardy, the 1920s, 1930s black and white comedy movie
Oh,
stars.
Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I went to the same school that Stan Laurel went to because he was from the north of England. One of them was from the England.
I knew you were old. I didn't know you were that old.
Well, I mean, I was a couple of years below him.
Oh,
No, you weren't.
Well, I was a couple of decades below him, but I mean,
okay. Well,
3 or 4 decades below him.
yeah, well, years, decades. Who's counting, really? Well, that's cool, though.
Well,
I didn't even know he went to one.
Stephen, my missus,
I get him confused with Abbott and Costello.
My missus is a first from Brasenose, and she got that because of, again, she got selected because of the system, and she got that through it. You know what I mean? I worked with Slaughter and May, all sorts of stuff back in her prime. Amazing, you know what I mean? And still, I get to go down there into the court, as in, she's allowed to. She opens doors, bro. It's fantastic. It is. I'll tell you what. When you meet, really rich cunts that have made it rich because they're fucking smart. And she went into corporate law, so it was commercial, patents, and trademarks, rather than she passed the bar as well. So good on her. I just was a military man, bro. A grunt.
It's not just smarts, though. It takes more than just smarts, because not everybody with a high IQ reaches those levels of status. There's social factors involved, because there's still this gatekeeping. They don't just you don't just
if
show
they
them your
don't want
IQ
to.
score and then they wave you in and
No,
start
of course not.
showering
No,
you with the benefits.
absolutely. It's questions. It's psychometric tests. things that kind of evaluate of how you can think and what you can do, and then go back. Well, here it is.
Well,
You can-
it's also whether you can relate to people on a basic human level. Like you could be super smart, but be
Yeah.
a super
Yeah,
autist,
yeah.
and I don't mean
Yeah,
be autistic or have Asperger's. I just mean
yeah,
be a dick,
But
right?
to-
You can be super smart and have no social skills, and you'll fail because no one will get on with you.
relate to those particular people, because I question that those people's ability to relate to people, and I think I relate to a broader range of people than those people are able to relate to. They're pretty
Well, that's
abstracted
why,
from the common man.
yeah.
So you have to
Well, I mean,
relate to that particular social group, not just humans or people.
no, I think you need to be able to kind of relate to anyone that you encounter.
Well,
Just
I
on the
find them
basis,
if that's your standard, I find them more lacking in that than most ordinary people that are not in that group.
I'd agree with you. I think if you're super smart and you can't interact with people on a normal human level, then you're going to fail.
For the most part, unless you have a patron or a middle step,
Yeah.
like you have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
manager basically.
Well,
That-
I'm questioning because I'm in that category. I'm a intelligent underachiever or an intelligent failure, if you want to say. And I don't think it's because it's my lack of ability to relate to people. I think I've demonstrated my ability to relate to a wide
just to be
range of
clear-
people. I think it's my lack of ability to relate to a certain specific class of people. But that
Yes.
class is not the ordinary human that we're talking about when we talk about relating to people.
Okay. I wasn't making the assertion that everyone who is super smart or everyone who has a difficulty relating to people is going to be doing that for the same reason. So if what I'm saying doesn't apply to you, then it doesn't apply to you, and that's fine, right?
Well, yeah, but I'm
you
trying
know.
to understand what you're saying. Now, I'm not just trying to rule it out as applying to me. I'm also trying to understand this claim that if you're highly intelligent, you will succeed unless you lack an ability to relate to people. But that doesn't track
Well,
with
the
my
same goes if you're
experience
stupid.
of what these people what's responsible for these people's success. It's not their ability to relate to people. It's their ability to relate to each other and a certain class of people.
I mean, okay, yeah, sure, all right, yeah, fine, but they're still people. Each other is other people. A certain class of people is still people. And it's
Well,
like
my
maybe,
the people we're talking about, the highly successful, intelligent people, and I know
Right.
many of them. My experience of them is that they are not. If you take your ability to relate to the ordinary human, it is
Right.
not going to transfer to an ability to relate to those specific people. There's some other
I'm not
type
making
of
that claim.
skill set you need to relate to them. And so the fact that you're not successful because you can't relate to them doesn't mean you're not successful because you can't relate to people.
I'm not making that claim. And I don't know, having heard what you just said, I don't know that I agree with it. I'm going to need to think about that for a short while.
Because I'm just going off
Yeah.
of my experience. I've been around these.
Well, yeah,
plenty of
but
these people.
you're one person, and we're talking in generalities. Right?
Yeah,
And
I'm
it's
one
like-
person with a lot of experience in the topic we're talking about.
and I would argue that one person's experience, no matter how deep or broad it is insufficient data.
Well, I'm still going to offer it. I mean, we're not doing a sociological study. It could still be useful to people that take it as experience.
So
Besides, all you
claiming-
need to disprove a claim is one exception, and my experience could be that exception to this idea that you need to be able to
Except I
relate to.
wasn't-
If you're intelligent and can relate to people, then you will automatically
okay.
achieve this level
That's
of
not
success.
the claim I made. That's not the claim I made. And I want to be clear. All of my claims, they're all provisional, and there's always room for caveats in every argument I put forward, because there are always exceptions to the rule, right? So when I say you can be really smart, but if you can't engage with people, then you're not really going to do very well. Then
Yeah, that claim does not. I dispute that claim. It does not track with my experience. I don't think it's. I think you can be smart and be able to relate to people and still not reach
Agreed.
success, because I think there's some other factor
Agreed.
involved in success beyond just
There
an
may
ability
be.
to relate to people. That's what I'm trying to understand about your
Okay,
claim. It
so
doesn't
Yeah,
seem
no,
it
no,
doesn't seem
Jen,
comprehensive
Jen,
enough.
yeah,
Wait,
Jen,
wait,
no, agreed. I'm not being fucking comprehensive. We're just having a conversation
Yeah.
about shit, man. It's not like I'm
Yeah.
pulling out a kind of study out of my ass.
Okay, well, it
yes,
was a
I'm
claim, and
speaking.
I don't know until you qualified that it's not intended to be comprehensive. Right? It
Easy
sounded
choice.
like you were like identifying it as the factor that made the difference
No,
between
it's a
success. That's
factor.
how it sounded to me,
A
anyway.
factor. A
Now,
factor,
I
Jeff.
would say what
Look,
makes
hang,
people
hang,
different.
hang on a minute, African. Jeff,
Sorry.
when I make claims, I've kind of fallen out of the habit of adding caveats to everything that I say because it just used to piss people off. Right? So I don't bother with the caveats anymore. Of course, there are caveats, like always. Seriously, I'd be going through the caveats and people would just be going, "Get to the fucking point, man." It's like, okay.
Hey,
Well,
Shifty.
sometimes it's good
Okay, well,
to.
I was just trying to understand the claim, and I didn't understand
But
it
would you
the
not
way you
agree
expressed it.
that,
I think I understand it a little better now, but I'm glad I asked questions and
would you not?
picked it
You
apart a
didn't
little bit.
ask. Hang on, you didn't ask a question. You just said you're wrong. But wouldn't you agree
No,
that?
you can go back and watch the stream. That is most certainly not what happened. I didn't just say you're wrong. I attempted to understand what you were talking about and contrast it with my side of the
Okay.
issue. So if you're going to dismiss it as
But
me
would you
just
not?
saying you're wrong, that is not faithful to what actually
Okay.
happened, and you're being
I take that
disingenuous at
back.
that point.
I take that back. Right. Would you not agree, though, Jeff, that if you are unable to engage with people on a meaningful level, that is going to make succeeding in the world much more difficult?
Probably, but I would also say it depends on the people, because I would
Yeah, of
not
course.
automatically assume because you can't engage with a specific group of people that you lack an ability to engage with a large amount of people and a large range of people. So
I mean, so
you
can
you
you give
have
me
to you
an
have to be able
example?
to engage with the group that are gatekeeping your path to success, I guess. And if you can't engage with that group, you
So,
may
like,
not be successful on that particular track.
right. I mean, can you
But
give
to
me an
frame that as
example?
a general ability to engage with people is what I'm having difficulty with.
Yeah, I understand that, and I don't understand your difficulty. Because, like, not being able to engage with a subset of people is still not being able to engage with people.
Yeah, but we're talking about something very specific here, and I think when you generalize it, you lose resolution.
Right. I mean,
Because not being able to engage with high-placed political people or fancy rich people or people that work in corporate or finance is not the same thing as just a general ability to engage in
right.
with
But
people.
if you
And
say,
it kind of blurs the issue
right,
when you say, "Oh, if you can't relate to people, you're not going to be successful."
let me
When
be
the
more
people
specific.
that you need to relate to be successful are not the people that most people
Right.
encounter in
Let me
ordinary
be
day
more
life.
specific.
So you can have an ability to relate to most of the people around you and still
Yes.
not be able to relate to the people that you need to relate to be
Okay.
successful. And I don't
Let me
think
be
it.
more specific. Let me be more specific. People in your field. How's that?
Okay, that works.
Right. 3 words sorted that out. Man, language is great. Frustrating, but great.
But again, like, what drives success, and what do you think success is? Is it the value of what people know you are? Is it, again, the amount you have, your
No,
children?
I think it's being able to do what you set out to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I
I
think
mean,
it's your goal,
How
whatever
does
your
anyone
goals
know
are.
what they set out to do over what this is? You have to either, you know what, you have to have the bollocks to take that fucking gamble. And some people never take that gamble, never actually try seek what they can be, right? They just are, and they stay in that forever. They stay there. They're people that don't go anywhere, man. Like they live like within
Well, yeah, but I mean, you have to
miles
bear in
of their
mind.
self, you know, there's thousands and millions of these
You,
fuckers.
you have to bear in mind,
Everywhere.
African, that we're conditioned to do that.
Oh,
Society is always telling us conform,
Yeah,
don't
but
step outside the
like
box.
adults can decide. Like they don't have to listen to their
no,
conditioning. So
no,
Yeah,
I don't use it as an
agree,
excuse
Jeff.
when we're talking about adults.
but the
Well, I'm not
brain,
using it as an excuse for me, but if you've been conditioned not to reflect, then reflection is going to be much more difficult, isn't it? Like self reflection.
I just assume it's because they didn't set out to achieve in that
no,
area in the first place.
no,
Yeah, I
no,
mean, because it's a habit, isn't it? Like self reflection is a habit, but if you don't start the habit, then it doesn't become habitual.
very true.
It could be.
And
I
it's
don't know.
also
I've
that's
always
the
had it.
hardest part to be, eh? You know,
Well, yeah, but you might have always had it, and I'm not saying that self reflection isn't an active, like it's definitely something active that you're doing. I'm not saying it's passive, right? But you can cultivate positive habits just by doing
Yeah,
them.
that's what I was gonna say. It seems like anybody could learn to do that, just like they could learn reading or
Yeah,
math or some other mental
you have
skill.
to first of all be introduced to the idea, and you have to be introduced to the idea in a way that makes sense to you. And then once you've generally, I think there's a disparity between people's intellectual comprehension and their emotional comprehension, and sometimes it can take their emotions and the rest of their psyche a bit of a while to catch up with their intellectual comprehension. Yeah.
Do you think
not
experience could provide that? Like as people go through life and encounter barriers and obstacles, that from that some kind of self-reflection will begin to develop.
I mean, I don't know if there are a specific set of experiences that would give rise to that. I
Like
don't know.
if they keep running into the same walls, will they at some point sit down and say, "Hey, let me think about this"? And
I mean, in my experience, no, not always, because I've
oh,
known people who are, in their 60s just doing the same thing that they've done for the last 40 years.
yeah, I do too. Now that I
you
think
know,
about it.
their brains are hardwired into the same thing. They don't know how to get out of that. Correct.
But like if
yes, and
somebody
yeah,
came to them or they
So
like
you
watched
again, but people
Oprah
what,
choose
episode
ease,
or picked up a
yeah,
self-help book or went to a
people
therapist,
choose to live
somebody
in
could introduce the idea that,
no,
hey, if you
no,
sat and thought about these
yes, but
ignorance.
things,
that's why I said, Jeff, it has to make sense to them. It's no good introducing the concept to someone for them not to really get it, and then to gonna and then to just ignore the idea, right? Like it has to kind of be fascinating to them. You have to fascinate them. Yeah, like do you see what I mean? Like you could so for example, if I want to try and talk someone into taking up a meditation practice, what I'll do is I'll tell them about
What happened?
all of
Why did it
the kind of
freeze?
benefits, right? Like I might ignore the fact that it can make life difficult sometimes and just ignore that. I'll try and fascinate them with, and I'll try and fascinate them with stuff that I think would appeal to them on a personal level. But if, say, the person introducing like self-reflection to someone isn't a very good communicator, or they just don't know how to connect with that individual properly, then they're not going to take that in, right? Yeah. In certain respects, I think there's an awful lot of good fortune or luck, perhaps, although I don't know if I really believe in luck, but in just in being able to come across these ideas in a way that you actually understand and that allows you to kind of work with them, because most people don't.
maybe so, or being a good salesman, or running into someone
Yeah.
who's a good
Yeah.
salesman.
Yeah. Like, because if I hadn't met the Buddhists that I'd met when I was in my early 20s, I'd be a fucking dangerous man right now. And it's only because I met those people that I'm not, because they introduced me to meditation practices.
Okay.
I'd still
Wow.
be
So
going out.
you were on a what, destructive path?
Yeah, I had the rage, man.
Oh. Do you still have it and you just manage it, or did it
Um,
like
it
diminish it?
No. Every now and again, it all kind of something will flare up, but it's much more short-lived, much less intense,
Oh yeah.
and much more sporadic. Like the instances of me being in a bad state are much like the kind of length of time between them. It gets longer and longer the older I
All
get.
right, all right.
You think that's a male trait, like rage or temper,
Yeah.
or do women? It seems like women have that too. But
Yeah, no,
I
women
think
have that
violence
too.
and lust are certainly
Nope,
male.
nope. So apparently, so when you look at intimate partner violence statistics, year on year, about 30 to 40% of all victims are men.
Oh yeah, but the most violent are lesbians.
And
Yeah, that's what
there's
You know,
I
they
think.
have
are
you
Like,
heard of
worldwide, globally.
a woman called
We get this.
Erin? Have you heard of Erin Pritzi? I think it is. She
No.
set up the first battered women's refuge in somewhere in London in the 1970s. What she found very, very quickly was that about half of the women who were coming in were prone to violence rather than being victims of violence.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they
yeah,
were actually starting the
yeah,
violence.
absolutely, yeah.
It's just that the men are better at violence than women.
Yeah, I know
You know,
men snap, and that's the problem.
women snap.
yeah.
Men snap. Men will
Well,
take it, push it down, and something will just snap. It takes again. I'm going to say it because of my military career, they push you, and they fucking make you snap. If you go through that, you know really fucking snap. That's why they want to break you all the time. If I break this, you know, and that's the same thing as when you have a nagging fucking bitch on your fucking hand, and you know,
You think that's why they're doing it?
why
I,
women do it. No, a woman do
yeah,
it
I
because
just thought they just
probably
didn't know better. Like they don't realize what they're
gratitude or
up against.
something that's within that. No. I mean, it depends on fundamentally their relationship. One's relationship with a woman, like when they're living. You know what I mean? And alcohol is a big factor in violence. It is, you know, especially I've seen it, man. It's not healthy, you know. There are many factors here as well, but yeah, I think men snack more, so the violence is there. So men kill more women than women kill men, right?
Well, that's like suicide too, though. Women
Men,
attempt it, they just don't succeed as much as men do.
no, yeah, but women generally, if they succeed, they come together. They do these pack suicides. They do.
And we have a woman right here
Oh shit,
that's calling crap
that's
on all of
crap.
your crap.
Oh, the women being like more violent because they're lesbian, or because they when they kill themselves, they come together more. Oh, I don't know. I think women don't kill themselves more at all. I think men kill themselves more, but that has
Well, men
nothing.
definitely do, but I think women attempt it either more or just as frequently.
Uh, Cry for help is always a cry for help.
Maybe the men are crying for help and they're just too good at it. They don't know their own strength.
Nah, man. When people do it, they do it for real. I mean, I
You don't
know
think
that.
women do?
No, well, the men that I knew that did it made sure they did it like correctly. As in, that
Yeah,
wasn't
the
a,
same here. That like
yeah,
the people that are gonna do it are gonna do it. You're not even
yeah.
gonna
No, there's no. And
know.
then I've known guys that have gone through that just to seek help because they didn't know how to ask. So it was a cry for help in that regard. So you've got to be sympathizing and empathetic to people all the time. It's not it's a hard life. And without one another, it even gets harder. So we should be better for one
Right,
another.
but
Our
it's
stranger
one
and all.
another that drives us to that in the first place.
Yeah,
Like
we all witnesses and
we'd
success of
probably
each
be
other.
less violent living on an island by ourselves.
Yeah, but it'd be boring. It'd be
Yeah,
sad.
I agree. I wouldn't want to do it either.
I like the thunder. I like the cold and I like the hot. I like the sweet. I like the sour. We've got to have it all with the mixture of what we have. But we've got to actually. The horrible thing is we've got to understand the realism of what life is.
That
and
would.
what life is. Life is, the inevitability of us deteriorating at any moment. Things can go wrong, and we should be prepared, and also always, be grateful for one another. It's a hard practice to say, and that's why it comes from the heart. I don't believe in socialism and force people to give their money away to make things better. No, you should by heart just
Yeah.
and it's what I have. I mean, take it doesn't matter. It flows. I have, man, so much for my life. Hey, it's a gift. Again, I'm a product. I'm a GDP. But lots of my gold, my gains are. I got a couple of pictures today from a friend that I hadn't heard from in a while, and they're like kid pictures when we were on like a roundabout, and I think I was rolling a joint, and I'm
Oh,
like,
how
I'm
old were you?
14
Oh,
or something.
okay. Yeah, that's joint
Young,
age.
it's young, bro. I mean, he's so young. I looked at myself. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, it's so nice to know that. And this isn't from Botswana. That somebody goes, oh, I found them, takes a picture, scans it, and sends it to me in an email, and goes, hey, look what I found. Remember those days? I still have that. I still have people that get a hold of me now and again from the other side of the world, or just, hey, what's going on? You okay? I do that. I try to reach out to them randomly too at weird times, pissed out of my head, so I piss them off, so they remember. Oh, you can't. Oh, you know what I mean. You gotta be there for your bros, and for your blows, man. No, I'm joking. That's actually a funny thing to say. Sorry.
Yeah, that's a
Sorry.
good point, Sean. Like, I think capitalism and communism and all the other forms of organizing society, none of them would be successful long term if it wasn't some part of our nature, like in our nature, to live that way in the first place. Commie is bad, Dirty Dog. Your public school educator was correct. They did you a great service. I've knows that. Other than the cool lights and the background, I've had
Wait.
a little taste of Zatoichism.
Does that mean that we need to blind ourselves and become masseurs now?
Masseurs.
Well, Zatoichi he's a Japanese folk hero, isn't he? He's a blind masseur who's
Oh,
also a
I didn't even
samurai.
know that. I just know this one. I think we're all going to become savage vigilantes. It'll be we'll be living in Mad Max,
Do you like
Wild
movies?
West.
Yeah.
But the outlaw and the gangster has kind of always been an American ideal, hero
And
archetype.
even though that period of time was only about 30 to 50 years, wasn't it? It was quite a short period of time.
Yeah, but it made its way
Or,
into all our movies and TV shows,
Yeah.
and the American
yeah,
psyche.
hey Jeff, do you know they reckon there's almost like 200 years of film on the Wild West? Then there is like 26 years.
Wait, I didn't even know film had been around
No,
that
no, no,
long.
no. As in, they made films of the Wild
Oh,
West. There's that many films made, spaghetti westerns and all that. It accounts for years over
oh yeah.
time that the Wild West existed.
So, do you like movies, Jeff?
A good movie. I like good movies. Yeah.
Okay, in that case, I 100% heartily recommend, without reservation, a movie called Zatoichi. It stars Beat Takeshi or Kitano Takeshi, but is called Beat Beat as
The
Zatoichi.
2003 movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's got a nice little dance number at the end.
Let me see. I'm looking at it now. Oh, it's a revival of the classic Zatoichi series. From 1948.
It was also in Battle Royale. I don't know if you've seen that.
Mm-mm.
That's
I saw Kill
incredible.
Bill and Quentin
You gotta
Tarantino.
watch
That's
Battle
really
Royale.
the only.
Jeff, you gotta watch Battle Royale. Yeah, that
Where
is
he
a
plays the
yeah,
teacher in
yeah,
Battle Royale.
yeah. Get
Not
out.
too.
Yeah, brilliant, man.
Well,
Amen.
if they're as good as Kill Bill, I'll watch them. But that's
Oh
set
yeah,
my
no, I think
Battle Royale
standard.
is as good as Kill Bill, and
Yeah.
Zatoichi is also as good as Kill Bill. Although Zatoichi's kind of slow to start with, but stick with it. And,
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
put it on my list. How's that?
so, just to change topic completely, seeing as we're talking about masculine men, and Elon Musk seems to be a man's man at the moment, hanging
Really?
out with men's men. All the powerful men.
I
How
don't.
do you see
Elon's not a name that comes to
What
mind
seems
when
to
I
be the
think of.
problem here?
what seems to
No,
be the problem is
no, I
is
grew up out there, like literally the
yeah.
same.
Well, I'll tell you the problem. I'll tell you the problem. The problem is that he lies to try and impress nerds. Now, there's a video that's come out recently of him playing a game called Path of Exile 2 because he's a video gamer, right? He's quite well known for being one of the top-ranked Diablo 4 players in the world.
So
right?
that he's been paying somebody, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So he's a
right.
troll.
No, he's a fraud to the extent, African, where he's doing this live stream on Twitter, right, playing his account, what's ostensibly his account, and in his stash tab, there's a tab called Elon's Maps.
Wow.
So it wasn't him the whole time, and he was trying to pass it off as him.
It
Well,
certainly
I mean,
seems that way,
but
allegedly.
because it's gaming, it's not going to
This
go
just
far.
okay.
in
I'm
terms
looking
of-
this up.
Yeah.
Did this just
In
happen?
terms of litigation and
What's
law,
it called?
you know. No.
Oh no, this
That's
no
control as well, don't you
no
see
African
it?
African.
Yeah. You can't hold him
Don't make
to
the mistake
take
of thinking that gaming is some niche thing. Gaming
know.
makes more
know.
money than
Dude,
every
dude,
other
I
entertainment
know,
system
I know.
combined.
I'm a fucking gamer here. I swear to God,
All right.
I'm a really big gamer. Okay, look, I've got 2
Gamers are
PlayStation
accusing
5
Musk of
there.
cheating at popular video
I got loads,
games.
man. I'm a gamer.
So
bro.
what he's being accused of specifically is
I know
paying
what he's-
someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is paying someone to grind the character through the levels so that he can log on at high level and claim that he's been the one who's done all the grinding.
Wow.
Like he can't
Oh my
operate.
God!
the
What
game
What a crime! That I'm sorry, man. Oh
Claims
my God,
he's
what a
playing
crime.
the game at the highest level,
Yeah,
but
okay.
that's only true if you have no idea what's going on. That's what the headline said.
No
Passive
one's saying
exile.
no one's saying it's a crime, African, but
I
it's
know.
fucking weak as fuck.
Yeah, no, I mean, for him, it's a troll. I don't care. I mean, personally, I mean, don't get me wrong. I have, again, loads of.
I wouldn't care
you know,
if he
you
wasn't
start-
claiming that he
you
did it himself.
Do you know?
He's
But
lying
that's
to
important.
everyone.
Is he claiming he did it himself? Because then he's just
Yeah,
lying. But if he's being transparent about, hey, I paid someone to level me up so I could take it from here, then he's not
I
lying.
don't think he's actually commented on.
Yeah,
on
exactly.
The
Yeah,
drama.
So this
yeah,
is internet gossip at this point.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it's YouTube gossip, a fairly and it's spreading. Like, so it started off with a fairly small channel watching his stream and basically ripping the piss out of him
Yeah,
because
but
he doesn't
don't
know what
get
he's
me
doing.
wrong. Don't get me wrong.
But then it's jumped to where like some of the biggest YouTubers, like Asmongold, for example, who's one of the biggest streamers on the face of the planet, he's covering it, and now it's getting mainstream news attention. Now look,
let me see.
do I think this is going to impact Elon Musk's political career? No. But is it something that we can laugh at? Yes.
Damn right we can laugh at it. You can troll him. You can troll him all day long, man. That's
So
the
I've
whole point of it.
one of my because I also play Path of Exile 2, and I've named
I
one of my
don't
tabs
care.
Shiva's
I've got-
Maps,
I've got-
even
I've
though
got
I don't
obviously
keep
and
maps in it.
stuff. Yeah, it depends. I mean, I'm gonna build a new rig there. That's what I want. I mean, I've kept this rig for years. And I still
Yeah, I built one last year. It's
Did
nice.
ya?
I like it. Yeah,
AMD.
it's good.
You went AMD, I bet. Yeah.
No, I went Intel.
Get Intel. Oh, what you got?
i7 13700K, 64 gig of
shit.
RAM,
30, oh. How much RAM? 32, yeah? Still.
64.
You were 64 straight up. Oh, man.
Yeah,
DDR4,
DDR5.
5. Oh, bastard. What's your GPU? Because, I mean, the new ones are like...
My GPU is fairly mid. It's a 1668 S.
1660 still.
Yeah.
1660.
But I kind of figured I'd spend on the CPU and the RAM, and then I'll upgrade the GPU later.
Yeah, the 50 ones are going to come out like maybe 500 quid, man. You know that the 50.
Yeah, but the claims about the 50 series don't quite stack up, like, because it's all.
I'm telling you, man.
AI generated frames, isn't it? Yeah.
Is it? It can't be. Can it?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
it's not actually giving you the performance of a 4090 in terms of in terms of rendered frames, like in terms of computed frames, like AI generated frames. Yeah.
What's the teraflops there on it? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head, no.
Yeah.
To be honest, what I might do is wait until they release the 50 series and then buy maybe a 4060.
I mean, I would say just, I'm running a 3070 on an i7 3770K at 5. Still.
3770? Fucking hell, that's like 20 years old.
Ivy Bridge, bro. I'm still running an Ivy Bridge, man. I know. I swear to God, like, I've got good with the bottleneck.
Oh my God, what, have you got a man standing next to it waving a fan at it or something?
You know it, man. No, my bottleneck's only like 16%, like at times. And I run this at 4K, sometimes. Not the 2K in front of me, that's the one for 4 hertz. As in I'm just, casual gamer. I sit back, but I have a nice OLED behind me. So I love like the full spectrum of it. Like Doom still runs good, man. Doom Eternal and some of the other ones. Even Metro. Oh man, it's not bad, man. It works.
I was going to say you might be able to run Factorio, and you would probably be able to run it in the early game, but I think in the late game,
I can run that Stalker 3, bro. It runs
Stalker 3.
Yeah. It's the Heart of Chernobyl. Is that the one? The Stalker. Yeah, that game.
I think I played that one. Shadow of Chernobyl, isn't it?
Yes, that Shadow. It's Tarkov runs on my system. That's not bad, but it just like I know I really got to upgrade, but I build rigs here and there for people. I have a good office one. I don't want to get rid of it, man. I'm like one of those like, oh fuck, I've got it. We've got to build a new one. Oh yeah.
Don't what the fuck are you talking about? Don't get attached to your 400-year-old computer. Just build a fucking new one and ditch the old one.
No, I'm not going to ditch it. I'm going to leave it here and I'm going to build a new one at the new house. And I'm going to just keep this room in this place. That's what I'm doing. That's why it's a whole.
Oh man, so you're on a HDD still.
What?
You're on a hard disk drive. You're not on
I'm on SSD. I'm on SSD, of course, and I have a PCIe that runs M2s, 2 of them. So they run. Okay. So I try to accelerate as much as I can. And I'm running like 5 gigs on a what's it a 8? It's an 80 HI Corsair thing. So it's push-pull sort of configuration. It works, man. I know what you mean, bro. But I still have the Pro 5. I have a 5 there. I've got laptops around it, I'm okay.
Are we boring you with computer talk, Jeff?
Yeah.
We could talk about.
I was wondering if you could be a real man in the modern world if you don't play video games.
No. Yeah.
That kind of suspect.
To be a real man.
Because like all video games make me want to do is go out and do the thing in real life. So that seems more like real man than sitting behind a computer playing a toy simulation of it.
No, but it's not necessarily that. It's an escape to it. And also, don't get me wrong. Like when I enjoy a game, I play it through, and I fucking do. And then when I get in there, I just want to like just go crazy with the graphics. And nevertheless,
Graphics don't matter.
I don't
Graphics
know.
don't matter.
I love the I've pushed things, man, like hardcore. I blew up a few fucking things. But
There's
nevertheless,
a game I've recently been getting into kind of low res games. So like some are which like pixel art, which I don't necessarily like the art style, but like there's a game, for example, called Vampire Survivors, which is like it's dirt cheap. It's about a fiver, and it's super addictive. It's like the most fun you can have for $5, and but the art style, if you it's like it was made in the fucking mid '80s or something. Like it looks.
Is real a game? This guy wants to know if
Vril, I
opinion
don't know
on
what that is.
EA Sports Football Club.
That person should be banned immediately.
Oh,
No,
okay.
I'm joking. I'm joking. I'm joking.
Well, he's in the right channel because fortunately I don't know anything about any of that stuff, so I wouldn't know what to ban.
but also like from when I was young and when gaming came in from the first ATI that I owned, because I've got a lot. I do recall telling my old man this because my old man is a DBA, so he writes SQL and developed databases in Linux. So I learned that. I learned Pascal, Q, C sharp, and bang it, moved on from that. But also when gaming was the key. And when the shit came out, and I got my first GPU, like because it was on a PCI. It wasn't even a PCI. I think it might have been PCI. 4 megabytes voodoo thing, mate. My old man was like, "Whoa, what's the matter with that?" I was like, "This is gonna be king. This shit is gonna be king, Dad." And it was, and it is. That's why I still frame that one over there.
Which one?
Well, the GPU up there, bro.
Oh, that's the actual GPU or picture.
No, not from those years ago. No, that's the one that I did crypto with on banks.
I feel that.
Back in the
I've been thinking about the Big Bang recently.
Okay.
You think it was Buddha that did it?
No, I've been trying to. So there's this argument that I come across quite often, which comes from theists, which is that either as an atheist, either God made the universe, or I have to believe that the universe popped into existence, and the phrase that's used is "out of nothing," and I have problems with that because there's a whole bunch of assumptions that go along with those words "out of nothing," and so it occurred to me, what if you applied the principles of chaos maths to the universe, right? So one of the interesting things about chaos maths is that you get variations of patterns at different scales, right? So there's a famous question, what's the length of the coastline of Great Britain? And the answer is, it depends on what scale you're looking at the coastline from. Like to an ant walking along the coastline, it's going to be super fucking long. But if you're out in space looking at the coastline, it's only going to be a centimeter or whatever, right? So I was thinking,
it also means like how high you are walking, or you're walking actually on the waterfront. Because if you're on the land to that, it's different as well.
So I was thinking, well, what if we take that principle, which is that when we look at the universe, what we see is variations of patterns that repeat on infinite scales, right? And we apply that to the universe itself, in which case the universe just becomes part of a fractal. What do you think?
I'm still trying to tie it to the origins of the universe.
In certain respects, there wouldn't be an origin. It would be a self-emergent, self-similar system.
hang on, but that also the thing that comes in that is where God the Almighty was. For there was nothing, and it was void, and then came light. The light was
Yeah.
made again. So these things are one from where it started, a principle of how it became, rather than what was before. Correct? And so you ask,
The question that's always put to me as an atheist is, well, if you don't believe in God, if you don't believe that God created the universe, then how can the universe come out of nothing? That's the question that's often.
It's okay to not know.
Well, that's
the
often my.
answer.
I mean, that's my response. I don't know. But, you know,
But that doesn't mean
I'm trying to.
we have to believe in God just because we don't know.
I'm amongst
I'm trying to.
atheist and an atheist.
I'm trying to come up with a cheeky counter position.
Tell them that time is a flat circle, and we haven't created the universe yet. Like we're going to
Look,
eventually
I
create
don't
it some
really
point in the
wanna-
future, and that's going to be the Big Bang.
I'm not sending people down the Yellow King rabbit hole, Jeff.
Well, you miss it's a missed opportunity.
In physics, exactly, Effigy.
There's plenty of things that science doesn't know.
Yeah,
That's just one of them. But none of them lead me to adopt a hypothesis like
But guys,
that God did.
when you guys talk about God and you talk about religion,
Right.
isn't that people say that those things are set in barrier, so you're not allowed to do them because henceforth
They're
they
what?
are bad or they're evil, so you shouldn't practice these things. But it doesn't mean, in respect here, that we as humans, we can fuck around with everything possible. This is our universe to have. This is our time that we have. And we always have. Time is your money. Time is your gain. Time is everything that you have. And
I mean,
it's not what you think. It's time. And again, we in this era, or this time, this position of humanity, we see, in the 21st century, is bang. We are breaking down fundamentals here. So what's wrong with that? Is that a problem? Oh, are we making super soldiers because we are messing with genetics? Is that wrong? That's an ethical question, right?
Yeah, that's science can't answer that. We have to answer it.
But the ethics of these things we do, the wars, everything, that doesn't matter. That's like over. That it only becomes because we have that ability and that wealth to sit away from that and go, oh yeah, that's how we judge it, not to do it again. But we're going through such a mire of it all the time that there's none of these principles that can happen. Like World War II, when you had to get all the Nazis condemning death, we had to make that fucking, understand? These atrocities that we're doing, these breakthroughs in our genetics from China to India to every, Pakistan, whatever, Iran, North Korea, South Korea, these things are now just fluctuating all over. And, most people don't understand that the ethics here don't matter. You don't even know. It's already bypassed that. Bang, bang.
I mean, I still think we do the best we can, or we should, because we all have an interest in our own survival, and so for that reason, we need some kind of ethical approach to this, so that we can keep doing those things.
To quote Radiohead, you try the best you can. The best you can is good enough.
I mean, it seems to have been so far. Like we're still here, and we're still doing things, like making advancements. I have no opinion about this. Does anybody else? Semen retention?
Maybe. If it's part of a broader practice of abstinence from sexual activity.
We're going to stop wanking for 7 days.
Then I think that's an excellent thing.
Yeah, my balls for about 7 days. I give it that.
I don't retain mine enough to even know.
Really?
I think that's an excellent thing for people to do for, say, a month every year.
Because they're box and stuff. That's fine.
For how long?
But I would argue that it's not just about not ejaculating. It's also like if you want to see real effects from it, you also need to not engage in any sexual behavior whatsoever, and you need to kill the any sexual act at the root, which is the fantasy stage. So when you start thinking about sex, that's when you need to nip it in the bud. But temporarily, I think it's a good practice to do for a short period. I wouldn't recommend it necessarily.
What are the effects of an increase in hormonal energy? What does that look like?
I don't know what hormonal energy is.
He said testosterone. Like, are you saying that there's just more testosterone in your body? Like you have more energy? My doctor tried me on testosterone way back when, and I did it for like 1 or 2 days, and I hated it. I had so much energy. It felt like I was on like an entire pot of coffee. My heart was pounding out of my chest. I think that might even be when my panic attack started. But I did not like whatever change that testosterone gel brought on in me. So if it's anything like that,
David's
it
gone
was
to bed,
uncomfortable for me. I would not want to feel like that.
David's gone to bed, so I'm going to have to bounce. Thank you, Hermie, on the panel.
Oh yeah, you too, Shiva.
I'll keep him awake if I'm talking on panels.
Thank you for contributing. I was looking at it from the perspective of what is a Western real man, I guess, and it helped to have the Eastern piece filled in.
All right, no worries. Thanks for having us. I'll see you later. Bye.
Oh, all right, man. Take care.
Take care. More vigor, more energy, more life force. More energy, more energy. I understood that part. And I guess, yeah, that's probably good for people that need more energy. I notice, like, if there's gaps if I break my regular pattern, usually it's because I'm depressed or just not thinking about it or just really busy and not focused. Sometimes, honestly, the older I get, sometimes I don't even have the energy. So there can be several days between instances. And I notice if I put a few days between it, it's more intense, I guess, and I
Yeah, no
feel it
shit,
more.
man. Your balls, yeah, of course, man. Your balls, yeah, man, of course.
But that's the only difference I know. I don't notice that I have more energy.
Oh, really? Oh, dude.
You
Gotta
think
eat
that's
better.
the reason? Effigy, he was holding it in.
I don't know.
I don't know. I don't hold it in enough to even notice too many. I don't have enough data to see much of a pattern. I just know that, if I go a few days, it's a little more intense. Those first few times when you break that fast. But outside of that, I don't notice anything about me that's different throughout the week. I don't notice more energy in myself. In fact, usually if I'm going a few days, it's because I'm low on energy and I just don't have the energy to even participate in the activity.
Well, ain't you sweet? Hey, thanks for the evening, eh, Jeff?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, honestly. So I don't know if we got through what is a man tonight.
I didn't expect to. I figured we'd come out with more questions than answers, but I didn't even think about Eastern cultures at all. That's how much of a Western chauvinist I am.
Oh, wow,
I don't even. But they certainly have different ideas of what a man would be than we in the West do.
Well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
Maybe. I don't know either. Honestly, I know nothing about the East. I'm going to look stupid even trying to pretend to say something about it.
So as you would say, the other guy said, Genghis Khan, I believe, used his daughters to marry the principalities that he fundamentally conquered and then created treaties. And then he murdered said husband. So his daughters would inherit the land. Henceforth, he would have ownership of that land. in perpetuity. Yeah, that's how Genghis Khan actually conquered a lot of the stuff in his biggest expansion. So
And he
you,
spread his DNA too. And
yeah, of course.
if the essence of masculinity or male is the power, is gaining
But
power
the
and
daughter,
power
because
to
the daughter,
spread your DNA, Genghis Khan was the most real man of all of us.
yeah, but he did it through his daughters, not just through the act of that. So that's the spread. You
Oh,
go fucking, his daughters
so
held.
it's not like he went around and screwed everything.
Yeah, he set in motion the fact his daughters or his nephew to girls. He would always say from his family lineage, "You girl, you go marry him." That guy was owned this area, and then he'd like later on get him assassinated. Bang. So she would inherit, and he would inevitably, through the lineage, inherit it over her directly. Sex and wisdom.
Because that is like on a biological level, at least, what masculinity comes down to. They're the
Yeah, but
perpetuators of the species. They have to get the
absolutely.
life force out there to create
Yeah, but
new life.
but for humans, male heir or female is the bloodline. The Jews are the bloodline from the woman. So it's almost the same as what Genghis Khan did, but it's the way that the law stipulates because the man had to take over the estate. We had it for years here, didn't we? In Europe.
Incels are not real men, though, Effigy. We're only talking about real men. And neither are the vile cells, I guess. Yeah, I felt less masculine on this panel when y'all were talking about computers and video games and all that stuff. I didn't even feel like I fit into the man club.
Dude, it's fine, man. I know this is geek, dude.
But then I was thinking the reason I felt that way is because I want to be out doing that stuff for real. If I'm playing a video game where you're in an army uniform shooting people, I would just rather go be in the army and shoot people for real. To me, that's more masculine.
You would not want to do that. Let me repeat that.
I probably wouldn't want to try to operate a gun. You're right. But I
Operating
would want to do that
it's-
more than
it's-
play a video game trying to do it.
Yeah, I mean, but I'm not playing video games that are.
I'll
Just
take my chances with the gun over the video game controller.
I'm not playing games just for that.
It's a simulate. It simulates like an experience. Like
That's
a
an FPS.
if you were in a different time, you would be out actually fighting the people. But because we're in the West, the first world, and we have all this luxury to sit around all day, we simulate an outlet for that impulse. So you still get that fed, that benefit of your mind. Your brain can't tell the difference between shooting digital pixel people and real people. So your brain is getting whatever reward it gets from participating in that activity.
Jeff, I want to say no. I'll tell you one reason why. Because if you go shoot somebody, you have bloodlust. And
Yeah.
that's when you feel the spray of their brains or the warmth of their guts.
There's something in men that
Oh
get
man,
a
it's like,
satisfaction in that.
oh my god, yeah, you have no idea. Again, why do so many soldiers kill themselves? Huh?
Yeah, I feel less masculine right now too.
Yeah,
I don't
well,
have that.
not just because they feel like, oh my god, what am I? It's life. It's because they can never get that high again. It really is high. It's unbelievable to go through those things. It's, there's nothing that can ever fucking bring you back down from that, bro. It's unbelievable, and that's why some people hooked on it and die in it completely.
Violence.
Yeah.
Is that a real man? It might be. I think lust and violence
Man is violent, yes.
are probably at the heart of the male, at least the male evolutionary experience.
So I would
Things like Fight Club and people on here talk about like fighting all the time. Like if you have a issue with a man, you go out behind 7-Eleven and you fight it out like men. There's something about men that want to indulge in violence, and they get excited when other men do it, and they look up to men that can handle their problems through violence. Again, like the outlaw, the gangster as masculine hero figures or ideals in modern culture, at least American culture, but other countries have adopted them.
Jeff, would you say that those things have actually become like the sheriffs or the
Like the
law?
what?
The sheriffs of the law. Remember, they intervene, correct? When there's a crime that's committed. Yeah? People either just do it, that's it, it's done. People say, oh no, there's a crime committed.
What? That's because Washington likes to ban everything. It's virtue signaling. That's the only reason they do it. They don't actually have real problems to solve, so they find fake problems to virtue signal over. And even the American Revolution, I mean, the whole country was started by outlaws and gangsters. This is a gangster country. We let everybody keep their guns.
Yeah, thank God.
Gangster nation.
Ain't gangster nation. No, man. You guys come from a solid nation.
You just jealous.
You forgot yourselves. Yeah, completely. I think that's the hard part of that you guys don't realize of how easy it's got.
That America's the most masculine country on earth. This is where all the real men are, if they're anywhere.
I mean, you can't say that. There's no way you can say that. The most masculine country on earth.
What do you think? It's Canada?
It would be Africa then, wouldn't it? They breed like fucking everything. So
maybe so. They get to keep their spears. Well, let's see what this real man has to say. Okay, enlighten us.
Real men wear pink.
You have the most masculine avatar, at least. So your wisdom's got to count for something. Real men wear pink? The football players used to. Back when I was growing up, there was a trend.
Yeah, you remember that?
Pink.
There were a few times where it was like, and it's usually like the kind of like more frattish kind of people, the more kind of like well-to-do, where they're like they incorporate pink into there, and they're like, yeah, I'm a man because I can.
And it only takes like one or two to do it to start the trend, and then all of a sudden, all the guys are in that.
Pink polos.
And I don't know if the trend comes from women initially, or if the guys pick it up from somewhere.
Well, no, it's kind of like this idea that if you're a real man, you're so manly that you can make unmanly things manly vicariously, right? Like that's what I've always felt that the pink
that never
was.
worked for me, but yeah, I can see that thinking.
I also grew up watching wrestling, so like a lot of wrestlers wore pink.
They would shave their legs too.
No, but I've seen this in like Italy and in France, and in France I laughed. In Italy, I was like, yeah, he gets away with it. Yeah.
You think that's what's behind the trans trend? Are they trying to
no.
like masculinize femininity?
I think it's just fucking idiots trying to be something they can't be.
Well, not to connect it to the trans issue, but I think in general, women are masculinized a little bit and men are feminizing a little bit. I think there is those kind of like hard lines are being blurred.
The Karens. That's what David Bowie did. David Bowie's like, I'm so masculine, I can put on a dress and makeup and still be secure.
Sure, and I think that's a big
rock.
part of it. I think that, and that's the key word to me, secure, right? Because I think when people talk about things like toxic masculinity, what they're talking about are like those reactions to insecurity. Guys who act like violently when you like insinuate something, they're like, I'm not gay, and they'll like get into a fight over it and stuff like that, whereas on the other opposite end of the spectrum, we have someone who's, I'm so masculine that I'll wear these feminine things, and what are you going to tell me,
So secure in what then? Secure in their masculinity, but then what is that?
What does that mean, right?
In?
What does it mean to be secure in your masculinity? I think that means like your idea of your personal masculinity supersedes what you feel the outside world is projecting onto you.
So just like secure in yourself, like you know who you are.
Well, who you are as a man.
Is it even
right?
tied to gender at that point?
I mean, it definitely correlates for sure. I mean, this is a uniquely man thing, right? Um, Having to constantly prove yourself and have this kind of bar. I'm sure women have it too for femininity, like women who don't wear makeup or stuff like that. You know, I'm sure there are people who gatekeep in some kind of ways.
Because
Do you
I've
even bench,
I've been
bro?
secure in myself my
You
whole
know,
life. Like it's really hard for somebody to try to tell me who to be or convince me
Yeah, but you gay, bro.
that. But I've not always felt secure in my masculinity. So I think knowing who you are and being secure in who you are didn't always translate into feeling like you were fully a real man or masculine. So I think there's something more about being a real man than just being secure. Because I've always had the
well, it
security,
also
but
might be that
not
there's no such
necessarily.
thing, right? Like in the sense you're talking about, there is no such thing as a real man. Like
Then
a
what are
real man
men
is just
policing
a male. Well, that's a great question.
when they
Um,
police each other? Because they're policing some kind of masculine ideal, and if it's a phantom, then what are they up to?
it may not be that it's a phantom. It may just be that there are so many different ideals that there is no one target. Like there are highly correlative targets, right? Like a lot of people can point at like, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s and be like, you know, that's a
That's
man.
a real
Everybody wants
a
to be
girly
a
man.
real man like that, you know.
Yeah, and
But they're
Rambo.
but now, you know, there were also people who were like at the time who were like, you know, other people
What's wrong with
who
Wham and Boy
you know,
George?
I was literally about to say Boy George before Boy George came out. You know, that's a man. You know, little did
Nobody
they know
would
he
call
was
Boy George a real man, though. Come on, let's be
in the
realistic.
'80s, man. They may have in the
No,
'80s.
not even in the 80s. Boy
I don't
George,
know,
that's a real
man.
man there.
I mean, do you remember? Do you remember the metrosexual trend
Yeah, it's
in
still
the?
it's still around up here in Seattle.
Yeah, hang on.
Well, it's kind of superseded that original idea and just become a part of like the overall culture. But I remember that too in the late '90s, early 2000s, where it was like this thing in masculinity to like I don't know, like try to openly incorporate feminine traits in a way.
Yeah, and that to me was almost more associated with yuppie culture. It was more like a class thing than a gender thing.
Yeah,
To be metro was a certain statement of class.
metro.
I don't know. I don't know what a real man is, but I sure know it when I see it and when I'm interacting with it. It's a subjective sense of this person has masculinity and this person doesn't. Therefore, this person is a real man and this one's less of that. So if they
So it's a real man visual.
yeah, but is the lack of masculinity femininity then? Is there something? Does there
I
have
should
to
get
be
my
some?
axe back. Which one?
Is
You
it
want me to get
weakness
my axe,
versus
my
strength or
bow, my wood?
softness versus strength?
You're getting my fatigues, bro. Do you want me to see me my fatigues till I get dressed? You know, uniform is everything. You know, I know. I can get in
But
a
even
suit.
when you have your wizard hat or all the other stuff on, you don't
No,
seem less masculine just because you're
no, I know, I
wearing
know,
a
no, but
wizard
other
outfit.
people perception, isn't it? Perception. Like the other guy was saying, oh no, you weren't hearing that. That was a different chat. If you wear a yellow vest, you know, the high vis vests, most people will think, oh, hang on, you're somebody important. And generally, you can like swing by people, right? You can circumvent certain things by
I
looking the
mean,
part, right?
you're
Still today,
definitely right about
right?
perception. Because like, but think about how your perception changes though. So think about you're looking at you got this visual of this just like utterly badass soldier in his fatigues, and he just looks grizzled and dirty and like he's just climbed through the shit, but he's just so fucking manly. And then he walks up and he talks to you just like this.
Hey, girl. Yeah,
Hey,
that's
you know,
happened. Oh my God,
right?
that's
Yeah,
happened to me
Yeah.
so many
It's the
times.
very true,
perception is it's
They
all
fake you out.
super subjective. It's
very
not just
true,
subjective, it's super
very true.
subjective.
Yeah.
Very, very true. One of my mates said to me once, he was like, "Yeah, he went to Rhodesia, so Zimbabwe, and he was in going to a bar, and he said to me, yeah, that's a dude, you know, huge,' and he was like, hello." You're right,
That's every gay bar I've ever been to.
exactly. So, what is the man? Is the man like the
Um,
woman? Because don't get me wrong, like
This
that's
reminds
where
me
you
of and this may be a little off subject, but it reminds me of a story. Let me make sure I don't like tell the names of places, but one of my best friends in the world was a college football player for an extremely large SEC school. And he had the funniest story of basically this 6'8", enormous, like just built like a brick house black guy who was one of the offensive linemen, and you would have never ever fucked with him if you just see him, just because he's just so intimidating. And he just relayed this story about one day, the day how he found out he was gay, is that one day in the locker room, this incredibly small, thin, white twink came in all huffy and mad. And then the 6'8" guy was trailing behind going, "No, baby, I love you. I love you. You can't
no
leave me. I
way,
love
no
you."
way. Wow, that's funny.
I was like, oh man, the things you see
And
in a locker room.
even then he seems masculine. Even then, still seems like a real man. It didn't diminish his masculinity for me in any way. That it was directed at a twink.
Oh, but he's gay. The
Yeah,
perception
but
is high.
he's a real man that happens to be gay. So
Yeah,
there's
okay.
something about
Look,
masculinity
so being gay,
that's not
these,
correlated with
being gay these
sexuality.
days, these days, being gay shouldn't be a thing, right?
It's all
You know,
trans.
no, but it shouldn't, right?
Wait, what?
But
What do you mean it shouldn't be a thing?
well, as in, like, if people hide it or later
Like
on
it's
it
not a
comes
big
out,
deal.
it's like, what the fuck, man? Who cares? Or
I mean,
especially
luckily
if
for most people, it's getting to that point. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
don't think it is.
there's
I
still
don't
some
think. I think
holdouts.
gay is yesterday's. I
no,
don't
no,
think
no,
anybody gives a
they'll
shit
say,
Eh,
about gay
them
anymore.
give the wrong
children,
people the right amount of power,
children.
Jeff, and then it will be a problem again for some.
Well, I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
who those people would
So
even be.
Jeff, my uncle
yeah,
is gay.
Nick
you might be.
Fuentes, the Groypers. He's gay.
Yeah.
Didn't he get caught with Destiny?
What do you mean by get caught?
Didn't they have a video?
A video of what? Oh, they just did a thing together. I mean, Destiny's interviewed him before, right?
No, dude. It's a sex tape.
What?
Yeah, this was like a few weeks ago. There's a sex tape out there of Destiny and Nick Fuentes. I'm surprised it blew
Is there
over
an
now that I
AI
think about it.
generated one? I mean, if it's blown over, it must be like a
It
fake,
didn't look
right?
AI to me. You could only see the part of his head. I didn't look for the full tape, but the little clips they were shown on Twitter didn't look AI to me. But that's some good. That's a credit to their PR because it completely blew over. It was supposed to end the Groypers and Destiny's career once and for all, and 2 weeks later, nobody was even talking about it. Well, we looked at some the other day with midlife bro logic, the female bodybuilders, who actually didn't look very feminine. Now that I think about it, they were female bodybuilders on steroids, and they were some of the least feminine humans I've ever seen in my life. But I wouldn't call them real men either.
Yeah, I mean, when you get to that level, it's you're you're getting to the point of like almost getting out of the mold of what we think of a normal person, just general
We're
person is.
breaking the gender binary.
That's dysphoria.
Beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it totally is. That's a lot of it. Is we have
It
body types that are imprinted in our
Yeah.
brain.
Yeah, and it's wrong. And people again, like why the hypersexualization of children shouldn't exist is because they need to grow up in their own. We shouldn't be affecting that.
Well, tell that to the queer theorists.
I don't know, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. You're never going to do it because they're the new generation. That's the product you want to seek. So get them in early. You know, they pay for the rest of their lives. Bang.
But children are like I was influenced by the people around me, whether they were deliberately trying to influence me or not. You just pick up like certain people make certain impressions on you, and
Okay, yeah, but these days those things are way more skewed, all right? Because they have a social media aspect as well in their life.
oh yeah, they have
There's a lot targeted that we were not, privy from or with at the time. It was different for us.
No,
The
all I had was Captain Kangaroo. They have
yeah,
TikTok.
and TV generation sort of stuff. Rather than
Yeah, the most masculine role models For us growing up was Mr. Green Jeans and Mr. Rogers. I don't know what the
Man, I'm
TikTokers are
going to say
looking
it
at
was
now.
Ash from
Dylan Mulvaney.
Evil Dead. I'm going to say it was Ash from Evil Dead.
Oh,
You know, to me,
what's his
to me
name?
was the masculine of when I was a kid.
Hell yeah. Ash from Evil Dead. Hell yeah.
Ash, Bruce Campbell, man. All
Yeah.
the
And
way.
his name was Ashley. He had a girl's name, and he was still a badass.
Actually, yeah. One of my friends who died was
We had
Ash.
Indy. That was mine.
Seriously, he's a brilliant guy. He was a DJ. He's a fucking brilliant man. And it's just, what happened to him is just awful. It's awful. Why did that happen? Yeah, it's terrible. Ashley. Nevertheless, yeah, Ash from Evil Dead.
And it seems like it's almost like it's more like an equation that you're trying to fill, right? Because if it were all just body, then everyone could just go to the gym and then you would be considered a real man, you know. But people who don't have the body can also be considered a man. They just have to do other things, right? They have to fill in the other part of the equation by either showing that they're strong in character, strong in will.
Yeah. And
That
I think
was
you have to
actually-
have a deep
I got-
voice too. I don't think anybody without a deep voice is ever going to be
That's-
considered a
the-
real man.
That's an interesting take, but you know, you might be right on that one. Because that was. I mean, the point I made earlier was more about, you know, what people considered masculine as far as like sexuality, but yeah, it might just come down to if you know, I mean, would you say Mike Tyson's not a real man? Well, he's got kind of voice, kind of like.
Well, you know what? To the extent that I hear him talk, that really does compromise my
That's
sense of his
funny.
masculinity. He's a
I
voice.
mean,
cell like
it is
me.
the one thing he was made fun
It's
of,
the one
like by
thing, yeah.
literally everyone, right?
Yeah.
Every comedian makes fun of him for that. So it is kind of like a
Because
big
I was
deal
like
that
Bobby
his
Brady. My voice didn't
masculine
break at
stature is
puberty.
offset by that voice.
And I think men who get a normal voice at puberty transition, that's kind of a rite of passage. Puberty, in a way, is a biological rite of passage. But if your voice doesn't also make that transition,
Well, you know, some men's voices change twice. Some
after they
men
get
go,
old.
yeah, some men go through a vocal change like in their 30s. I think it's in their 30s.
Oh, what happens?
Yeah, some people their voice can drop into a lower register even more.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Who's I heard, what's his name? There's a YouTuber named I think what's his name, Thor. He does a lot of programming and stuff. He used to be a programmer for Blizzard, but he's a really big YouTuber, and he had, this reminds me of the story that he had said where he was like, you know, my voice didn't always sound like this, and then he brings up a YouTube video from like 5 or 6 years ago, and his voice is like kind of way up here, and it's like, yes, your voice can change a second time.
Oh, and it just happened naturally.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So there's still hope.
One day you'll get there, Jeff.
Yeah, I'll be 60.
I think your voice would also be determined by what you do with it, right? Like, I have I have an enormous vocal range because I've been a singer my entire life. So it's really easy for
did
me
you
to
have
talk down like
training
this.
like as part of your voice? Because your voice comes across as very normal, articulate, masculine.
voice at
Like I wouldn't
level-
mistake you for anything but male. But is
Right
is
when I went
part of
through
that
puberty,
training?
my voice like went through the floor, like because I remember being in choirs and stuff in high school, and my voice changed. I went from a high tenor to a second bass. It was a second bass all through high school, but in my adulthood and late 20s, going through my 30s, I've been a mid baritone in my comfortable singing range. So, and you can change that.
That's cool, man. That's
Through
cool.
training.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, when they say your voice is like a muscle, you know.
yeah, of course it is. Yeah, the solar plexus, everything about the diaphragm, the way you bellow it, where it is. Oh man, well done. It's hard, man. It's an art as well. That's something that is just unique to you, but
And that's if you consciously learn to use all of that. But if you just go with whatever your body's defaulting to,
dude, I was like a choir
then that's
boy
kind of
back
your natural baseline.
from a balls.
But I also think singers just
Yeah.
have naturally more like like when Helena the other day was like, "Oh, you have a really good voice." I'm like, it's probably not a natural thing to me. It's probably because I have a trained vocal, the singing voice from the time I was like
And
6.
so your body is conditioned.
I just know how to push
through the
air
training.
through my throat the right way, and I know how to get sound out without having to be loud. And yeah, I know how to use my instrument of my throat and vocal cords
Wow.
better than other people, I guess you could say.
That's such a valuable skill to have. I'm so jealous.
And I can be really loud if I want to be.
Oh, I can get loud. Well, okay, maybe we figured out what a man was. Somebody violent with a deep voice that's sexually virile or seeks power.
One who dominates.
Yeah. But then I know women, like back home, it's the women that dominate. The women are bossy. They run everything. They make the plans. They tell the men what they're going to do that day. Like the men are very
Look,
passive and just kind of hang out in the
Louisiana
background.
women, you know this, Jeff. Louisiana women are masculine.
They're
Because especially them Cajun women. Them Cajun women, as soon as they hit a certain age, they get this need to get a boy haircut. You know it's true. You've lived down here.
It's a matriarchy for sure. It's very like they can be feminine, but they're dominant. They actively control the social
Well, it's
life.
because our families are still, and this is, I mean, it's breaking down everywhere, but our families traditionally I feel have all been matriarchies. Like I know
Cajun
my
culture
Cajun
is
family
the
was.
culture's passed down through the female. That's what keeps Cajun culture going. It's a matrilineal culture. And how does it go? If a male marries a Cajun female, he's going to adopt the Cajun culture. If a Cajun female marries out of the culture, then she's less likely to remain Cajun. So the females seem to be the carriers of the culture.
Yeah, my mama was, as we say, back in Louisiana, my mama was the heart of our entire family.
Yeah, mine too.
When she passed away, the family just splintered into multiple directions.
Same happened with my family, brother. Really bad. Still not come together again.
The what?
Well, when my mother died,
That's
like
what held the family.
almost 8 years ago. Yeah, almost 8 years ago, bro. It was just awful, and she was young in that
Oh.
regard. Yeah, she's only 61. You know.
That is young. And so you and your
Oh, yeah.
siblings don't really keep in touch after that?
Oh no, it's horrific. You have no idea. It goes deep as fuck, man.
Oh.
Like, seriously, because of the way it is, just what it is. Jesus is bad. And it honestly, like, again, I have family in Africa, so I have family in Australia and America, and it all came, back for this funeral, and then it just went all tits up. It's not good. Never has been after that. So yeah, it's bad.
Which
I think
that
when my,
like
I think when my dad dies, okay, that's when they're gonna come back, and they're gonna go like, oh yeah, because I'm the only one that stood with my
that's
old
going to bring
mom.
them back together.
Oh yeah. But no, it's not gonna work that way with me because I'll be the executor of the estate, and then I'm gonna go.
Well, the way I see it, it's kind of like a natural progression, right? Like families, they kind of orbit around certain people, and then when that breaks away, they start to orbit around other groups or become the center of another orbit in a way. Like
Yeah.
it's just the natural progression of your older people in your family dying and passing on that legacy of being the ones who are the center of everything.
Yeah. I guess that's definitely how it is with mine. I don't know how much of that is a Louisiana thing
And
versus
yeah, I'm actually I was just thinking that too. I was like, I wonder how much that's different from everywhere else. I wonder if one of the reasons that all these fucking dudes that I run into online are so like brah about this shit is that they didn't grow up in a kind of matriarchal kind of like home. Maybe they were in the ones where the father was the center of everything and the mom just sat there quietly and just was in the kitchen or something. I don't know.
Oh no, man, mum's the best, isn't it? Like Nana, you gotta admit that the woman
they
always.
center like as much as black pilled as I am on women, they really do center or they have the ability to center a culture or a group or a family. They're the center of the kitchen, the household, the homemaking, the hospitality. I mean, growing up, we
Yeah.
were always having huge family
Well, traditionally,
dinners, and people were always over, and it was the women driving all of that.
Yes, it was.
They laid that social
They lay the
foundation.
table, right? The woman laid the table, men sit at it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like the men would do the outdoor stuff. They would barbecue
Amen. Yeah, I know.
and
Gotta strangle them
do
chickens.
the ducks and the deer and stuff. But outside, that wasn't everyday
See,
events.
this
The
might be
everyday
some of the stuff
was
that we're
women.
we're talking about whenever we're saying that the two sides are, you know, one side is masculinizing, one side's feminizing. Maybe this is the kind of stuff that needs to kind of happen, because it seems to be that's what a lot of people, especially younger people, are wanting out of their relationships. They don't want these like hard lines where it's like you do this and I have to do this, and I still see those relationships often. Like I know my siblings and stuff like that have very traditional relationships. But the people I see, because I mean they're country folk, but so the people in the city all seem to want, you know, these more kind of like equal shared responsibility type relationships where there aren't these kind of hard gender delineations between like you have to do the kitchen stuff because you're the woman and I'll do the yard work because I'm the man.
Well, what's keeping them from having that? They're adults. They can have any kind of relationship they decide on together.
Oh, sure. No, I'm just pointing out the differences.
Oh, I mean that's
And
how
maybe that
Mike and I
difference was
were.
always
But
there.
in
So.
gay relationships, it's easier to see because there's not such a clear cut gender division of labor. But that's how we operated. We were both a team, and we did everything that needed to be done as equals, and it wasn't really divided by gender. It couldn't be. So any two people that cohabit can
Well, I
develop
think one of
whatever
the
arrangement they want that
big
works for them.
changes in society would be that for the longest time, you know, for fucking ever, one of those two types of relationships was absolutely dominant in society as far as numbers, right? You can call it patriarchy or whatever you want. The tradition at the time was always, you know, these were your roles in the family.
That
And
was
I
that was
think
like
it may not have flipped, but I think there are now enough relationships where you have people who are like, this is the way it should be, and they're offering. It's why we have all these discussions now, because it used to be pretty homogenous, and when it's not homogenous, that's when people gonna have to
the
argue
last
about what's
time
better.
I saw that on a culture-wide level was probably the
Hide in the back,
50s,
right?
because even during the 60s that all started to break down, and in my generation, the 70s, with the rates of divorce, that was not the norm even back then. So I can't remember the last time that was the family norm. I think that's been broken down most of my lifetime, probably even before my lifetime. Where the father had a specific role and the mother was the homemaker. Even when I see it in media
I've got
or like at friends' houses, it looked archaic. It looks like, oh, that's something out of the 50s. Even if it's a movie about the 80s or the 90s and you
yeah,
see that lifestyle, you
Jeff and
associate it
Frank.
with something out of the 50s.
Jeff and Frank. I remember going to the pool, you know, with the pumpers. You have to, you know, go there and fix it. And there was this bee in the pump. I was with my dad. I was a child. And this bee's in the pump, like swimming, you know, when it gets sucked in the pool. You know what I mean, don't you?
The bees?
No, there was a bee
Oh,
being sucked in by the pump at the, you know, the pool that you have.
oh
You know,
yeah.
you put your snorkel on it and then you have your creepy crawly or whatever. you call it, to clean your pool. And nevertheless, it always filters, and it was be there. And normally you have to like pull out the filters, leaves, empty them.
Oh yeah.
He was floating in it, and I wanted to save it, so I picked it up right in my hand, and it stung me. And I remember like screaming and running back to my mother. My mum then was sitting with my sister, feeding her in her breast. And I was like, oh, it stung me. And my dad was behind me. And I basically said, oh, I want to save it. My dad said, okay, David, save the bee. And it made me realize, not everything you think you can save, you can. They will sting you. That will hurt. But I still remember running into the lounge through the family room.
But did you save it? Did you save the bee?
It died, dude. It died because it stung me.
Oh, you dropped it back in is when it stung you?
Yeah, nice. But it was dead anyway. Because it was cold. I didn't get to go look. What happened?
Did you still want to save it after it stung you?
Oh.
I see. I thought we were going to get a different lesson. I thought the lesson was going to be like, even though it hurts you, you still saved the life.
Yeah, I thought I was. It doesn't mean I did. It's intuitive as you see, what you learn.
But see, like, as violent as men are, there was still that instinct to protect and save it and, nurture it, not see it come to harm.
No, I mean,
that's a very tender quality, that
I think
instinct to want to save. I think
the heart of the violent part is, I think these deep-seated parts of us go back to times where we were a creature without even language, where we lived off of this stuff, where it protected us every day, it got us food, it also determined our social hierarchies constantly. Bigger, stronger would beat you up, would take over the tribe, stuff like that.
Yeah, like the head gorilla. But we still have that. Like, that part of our brain is still more or less at that level. And so everything...
Well, yeah, it's still deep down underneath, that's for sure.
Yeah, and so everything we do
anywhere
outside of that is because of culture or nurture. Because if we're left to our nature, we'd still be living like that. So whatever humans develop to modify that is the reason we're not.
One thing they say, okay, Jeff, is that it was women, because women wanted privacy. So it was the flu. When we had fire in the beginning, it was a fire in the middle. But it was when privacy happened, is when somebody said, hey, how about me and you get our own fire here? And they created separation and flu.
It freed you from dependency on the group as much.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah. And that must have been hierarchy. And then hierarchical point would have been a woman to a man.
Yeah. Because of the side, the power, the physical power differential.
So
I mean, it would determine everything back in the day, especially.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And it wasn't like, the caveman beat the woman with their head taker, but it could have been beat the woman's man, and she comes because that's the way. Who knows? Like, it could have been protect your woman constantly, from other men. Like, we're talking about like ridiculously cavemanish, like animal days for early humans, like deep-seated stuff way before language, way before things like that. Like, absolute probably like brutality as far as our current moral reasoning. And that's probably all still within us.
Yeah, I was about to say, that's all. We still are cavemen.
Oh yeah.
We just found a way to not to live a different way. Because
I like to put it as 1 foot out of the cave.
Well,
yeah.
I do understand. Okay, that if we go through certain extremes within, I guess, is it 9 weeks? Within 9 weeks or something, we will adjust to them through our history, through our genetic disposition. We'll survive it. So if there are extreme circumstances that change your ability to eat, starvation, if you will, fire, extreme cold rather than extreme heat, but extreme cold, say, and starvation, and maybe a disease. Most of us within that time will live through it because of our history.
I wish I didn't, but I have to run. Great conversation, guys. God, I really wish I could stay.
Yes.
Oh, you too, FG.
I'll catch you guys later.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That was some good contributions.
Amen.
You added some good spice to the gumbo. Well, Africa, do you think we figured out what a real man is?
I don't know, man.
I
mean,
didn't expect
I'm
a
thinking you're a real man.
definitive answer, but at least the conversation got
I mean,
started.
why did you wear that fatigue tonight?
Because I like it, because it's cool, because it makes me look manly.
Yeah, exactly. So you're using that notion, aren't you? So like perception.
I like it. I love camo. I've always.
Oh, good.
Like,
DPM.
the minute I saw it at the store, I knew I was getting it.
Good
So,
name. You're good though. I think a man encapsulates all of it that we've got. I would go to the Greeks almost, right? So where like Socrates and all that existed in those times, you know, and it was like you had to understand, you know, all types of a group of housing, a group of understanding. So you'd understand philosophy, you'd understand math, you'd be a hunter, you'd be able to be carpenter, you'd be able to be a woodsman, you'd be able to skin, you'd be able to make meat, you'd be able to look for, you know, herbs, you know, the whole spectrum came into that.
was Socrates a man? He was
yeah, of
mortal.
course. Yeah, of course he was. Yeah.
Because even the Greek, you had Achilles, manly man, but then you also had Odysseus, who was a completely different type of man, and that's even from within the same era. They had different masculine ideals.
Odysseus,
Camo. I'm trying to hide from all of the unmanly men. I don't want them chasing me, and I'm trying to catch the attention of the manly men. So that's what it is.
all right, okay, Jeff. Oh, good luck.
Yeah, you see where I am. Still.
Yeah, I reckon, man, you're gonna have part 2 of this conversation.
Oh, I'm sure there will be
You have to.
parts 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, easy. Yeah, there will come a time.
It was mainly Ricardo suggested it, and
I know.
it started out about like emotionality and if a man is comfortable feeling his emotions and expressing them, does that make him less of a man somehow?
No, of course not.
And the Stoic tradition would say yes.
But
Men should not be showing their emotions.
Yeah, of course, because those are ones that don't want to because how deep they go. The drawer.
So it's more about them and they have
the,
emotional issues in the first place.
What we have again is like what is the masculine? What is it, buddy? You know what I mean? Because masculine again, like in nature, is the raw deal. Come on, the bear.
Yeah.
The whole shot. Everything about masculine means masculine. It is a fucking force to be reconciled. It is the sun, not the moon. It is a separate entity completely. That's why we have what we have as testosterone. Yeah. Love a good beard, man. Yeah. You know it, man. Come on.
I like that. I think that is a good way of thinking of it.
Yeah, it's sexy. It's sexy, be
with the sun, the bear, the lion.
Yeah, I've also got rhythm.
None of those things hide their emotions.
Yeah, but we are not beast. We are man. We are greater. We are the apex of apex on this. Besides aliens, go show me a fucking alien, not a Ouija board. But fuck off. There's no fucking alien that comes to me and goes, hey, what are you talking bad about me, buddy? Be hilarious, wouldn't it? All we got to talk about is that whole thing about, as they say, is the superiority of genes, genetics, which they never want to talk about. Well, if you imagine Freud, because I'm a Freudian, but Freud would love this age because he was about genetics. and he would be able to make test studies of these people because he would look at their profiles, their Instagrams and their YouTubes and stuff. He'd be like, wow, there's just so much information that these morons are giving me because they're so fucking stupid.
Yes,
I
it is.
know, but it's true. I know. I'm being honest about it. Why?
Philip, men do it too. Men do it almost more than women. Men police, because I used to think it was women policing men, and I don't care what women have to think about men.
All right.
But then I noticed other men are doing it almost even more than the women. And I started having to defend against other men more than even the women. But I don't know what it is they're policing. Sometimes they police emotion. Sometimes they police like deportment, behavior, how you come across. But it's something that they're like the man is not living up to some arbitrary masculine ideal, and they're trying to corral them into staying within that ideal of masculinity, whatever it is. But I don't know what it is they're working off of, and it does all seem to be different when they do it because they're all policing different things at different times. Sometimes they police speech. So I complain about the Karens, but there's an awful lot of male Karens too. But I think because of the strength thing, because I think if you want to be seen as strong, and if you're perceived as being feminine, then it undercuts that sense of strength or that impression of strength that you're able to make.
Okay, so how feminine do you think you can make me without cutting my beard or my hair?
Well, like I said, like even when you're in your most feminine getup,
I'll do that. I'll put makeup on.
you still come across as
masculine.
And you're not overly mad, like you don't talk in a big like gorilla
no.
butch voice. You're moderately masculine, but there's still a masculine energy or presence about you, enough of one that I think however you look, that masculinity would still come through and override, like that would be the dominant impression that you make on somebody. Your masculinity's strong enough. I don't know. Are you ever insecure about it? Do you ever?
No. Oh, not at all.
Well, we have a real man right here.
Yeah, I mean,
alive. We had him on the panel the whole time, all day. A real man was among us.
Yeah, but that's true, isn't it? You have to be straightforward, agreeable, and make sure, like a good Samaritan, people are safe and secure, correct? No matter where their vulnerabilities are, what you have to challenge, if somebody's in danger, got to make sure that can you help them, or you self-preservation of you and others. The danger.
And he'll save the bee. He'll try to save the bee.
You know what I mean? That's why I like you, Jeff. You're not an idiot.
I try not to. Only half of one. But the other half, I think there's a little bit of value in it.
What's that?
I'm only half of an idiot.
What? I'm confused.
Well, yeah, thank you for showing up today, because I think more than all the talking we did about it, I think you demonstrate you're a living example of real masculinity, real man.
Truly down so. Somebody who helps another is in service of God. Yeah?
Is what?
If you feed people, like food is the key. Yeah? It's the best thing to bring people together and share your ideas with. Don't ever lose hope in that. Be brave always, and be honest with yourself and others. The hardest thing to be.
Food and honesty. That's the one thing I think that the YouTube is missing. If we could all share food together, imagine the potential for community building in the Panelverse. We just have to settle for sharing alcohol and drugs in the meantime.
Like SpaceX food rockets. Yeah, just made you a pap.
Or 3D printer food somehow. I mean, we could all go out and get the same meal and eat it together, but that's as close as we
Nah,
can
it's
come.
nothing like when you taste
We
it
could
from.
all go get fries one day and come and eat our fries on
Yeah,
stream.
I do have some food things on my channel, so you can take a look. Oh, I might make one. Always good. Thank you.
Well, you too, African. Thanks,
Thank
thanks
you.
for
Yeah.
hanging out today, and
Thank you
we'll
so
see
much.
you at the next one.
Amen.
Take care. Okay, I think we covered a lot of useful ground today. Very constructive conversations from everybody. So I still feel the same amount of man that I've always felt. I'm a Sigma, so I wouldn't put myself at the top, and an Alpha sub. I wouldn't put myself at the top of the hierarchy. But I don't ever feel like I'm at the bottom either. I just kind of am wherever I need to be in the moment. I don't have a fixed place in the hierarchy. But there are moments where I do feel less of a man than other people, but there are times when I feel perfectly part of the man tribe. So, I don't know. Take that how you will, whatever it means. So I hope it's been helpful. I certainly enjoyed hosting it and having this conversation. Um, I usually take Sundays off, but Monday I'm going to try to get the Kentucky Fried Chicken, finally. I have some appointments to go to out and about. So depending on how Monday goes, there'll either be a live stream like Man on the Street stream, or I'm going to take Monday off, in which case I may end up streaming tomorrow. So all of that is to say the next 2 days are kind of up in the air, but they might involve me licking some chicken off my fingers if everything goes right. So just kind of keep an eye on the space and see what happens. And then I should be back. Actually, let me check my Tuesday schedule. I have a lot of things this week, so um, nope, Tuesday looks good so far. So if you don't see me Sunday or Monday, I should be back on track on Tuesday. So look for me there, and I'll try to pick up with the myth stuff again. So have a good rest of your weekend. Thanks for hanging out as usual, and I don't know, have a manly day, and see you next time. Ooh, wrong one. Hang on. All right, take care, everybody.